Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is the third introduction to this video. So I wasn't going to do a voiceover to this video, but yesterday I made a voiceover about a comment where a person diagnosed me with Marfan syndrome and other shit, right? And so, I decided, all right, I'll do a short little thing today for that voiceover I did yesterday. And then I realized halfway through editing this thing, after I'd done the second voiceover, that the voiceover that I was thinking about was actually in this video. I don't know whether it's just I'm getting older, but these things just blend together. I made two videos yesterday. I completed one in the morning, and I made half of this one today for this video that's going up tomorrow. And so the voiceover you're about to hear is not going to make sense, but when you get to the second voiceover, it'll make more sense. So without further ado, here it is. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So I wasn't going to do an introduction, but I just wanted to just say one more thing about my health. I talked about this with my last video. This is a kind of an epic video. Erica Kirk cries again, and then Dan Bongino gives this cryptic message, and I mocked the shit out of him, which was really fun. I bust out my Guido accent, part Sicilian, but I don't really have a Guido. I struggle doing it, so I think it's pretty funny. And Trump just loses his shit. Like he's just he's deteriorating mentally right in front of everybody, and he basically says that his killing of whatever that guy's name is, that terrorist guy that they call terrorist in Iran back whenever that was the biggest thing to happen in the Middle East. Jesus was born in the Middle East. So he said that what he did was bigger than Jesus's birth, without consciously saying it. And he also said he didn't want to be compared to Herbert Hoover in terms of the economic catastrophe that was going to be what was going to happen if he didn't give Iran everything they wanted. He didn't say that, but that's what's happened. Like, he didn't want to be remembered as Herbert Hoover, so we were very close to a depression. And if this thing goes south because Israel fucks it up or whatever happens and the deal breaks down, he's already said that he believes that a depression is the outcome. So that's pretty fucked up. And the details are out and everyone's going nuts and losing their shit over this, which I'll get into later in the video, the end of the video. This is jam-packed video. But I said in my last video, people reach out, and I think some of them are concerned legitimately, because I never know if a person's just trolling. Like, I don't know who the person is. But if I mention something about my health, and I get some suggestions that, I've gotten a lot of good suggestions. I've gotten things that people have told me about. Somebody sent me a drink that has ginger, turmeric, lemon, cinnamon, and pepper. We used to use regular pepper. Now I put a little cayenne in there. And I think that's everything. And my wife and I drink it every morning, first thing. And it like cleans you out, and it's like, just a feel-good thing. We've been doing that maybe a year and a half. So people have, definitely helped me health-wise, but there's a lot of bullshit out there, right? And, I've had a number of people want me to go get tested by allopathic medicine. And, I don't hate allopathic medicine in the sense that, I had a couple of cuts that needed stitches, and I went in, and I felt it was good. I've had good allopathic doctors, people who I would consider healers, few of them, most of them not, in the past. And I believe that allopathic medicine is good at diagnosing things, at least to some extent, on a very not on a systemic way, but in a symptom way or whatever. The problem is, I don't trust the people and the orientation of the institution and the parameters of the diagnosis, because I have a master's in counseling, and I I use the DSM-5, and I know that some of the counseling, the way that the psychology world works is they're looking for negatives. They're looking for some negative, diagnosis. They're looking to see how fucked up. They're not looking for health. They're not looking for what you're doing right. They're not looking for, the positive stuff. They're looking for a problem. It's problem-centered. And allopathic medicine is the same way. They're looking for a problem in your body. And sometimes they get the problem right, and sometimes they don't. And once they diagnose the problem, you're in a state of fear because you're like, that's what they put you in. And again, it's not, this is for me, not for you necessarily. You have to find your own path, right? I don't recommend anything. But this is how I see allopathic medicine. And, in terms of just my life and the people in my life and whatever. And then you have this thing and they have this diagnosis. And you start, focusing on that diagnosis, which may or may not be true. And and certainly their way of dealing with it isn't, for me, the best way. People say they believe in God and believe in the soul, but a lot of people, kind of believe in that. But when I talk about my experiences or whatever I've gained and learned from Saj Mark, it's just make believe to you, or you might say, all right, this could be true, but not, you don't have any faith in it or whatever, which is fine because it isn't yours, it's my thing and not yours. But, I had this experience years ago. My family had finally, we decided to go to India. It was our last ditch effort to save the, marriage and this family. And of course it was doomed to failure. And I didn't know that yet. And my son got dengue fever. And one day he was laying around, rolling around having fucking seizures. Dengue fever, it's a fever that whatever the virus it is, or whatever you call that, the infected virus, I guess. You get it from mosquitoes, apparently. And there's 4 versions, and you're only immune to one version. And the problem is that the dengue fever, when you get, a fever, it's to kill, the heat in your body kills the bug, right? The virus or whatever, I don't know what exactly it's, whatever it is, right? The infection, it kills it. So that's why you get fevers, because your body heats up and the stuff that's not supposed to be there, the bad stuff, can't withstand the heat, right? You've seen this they do this with those killer hornets. When they go into a beehive, the bees will get the heat up in the hive to 112 or 15. The bees can tolerate higher heats than the wasp, and they just surround the wasp and they get their body temperature up, and they fucking kill the wasp with heat. They cause it to have whatever that is, hypothermia or whatever it is, right? The opposite of that. Where your body gets too hot and you just die. You overheat. And, it's a real threat. And so the problem is dengue fever is got a hot, the bug, the virus can tolerate life-threatening heat. And your temperature can get up to 106, 105, and even 107 trying to kill the bug. And, your platelets, your blood platelets start to break up. And they tell you to eat papaya leaves because that helps. My son did that. But he was really sick. And at the same time, I got really sick. And I was so weak. I was just, I could barely walk. The night my son, was flipping around, we tried to get this guy who was kind of there's an Indian version of an acupuncturist that my family and I was going to, and we had a, come in the middle of the night, and he, helped us, and he said, my son was going to be all right. But if he got dengue a second time, with a different version of dengue, he would be at risk to die. Some people die at the first, but, people get it a second time. So it's a whole thing. And, these daytime mosquitoes. Then I went outside and I was dizzy because I was really sick at the time. I mean, I've been sick for a month. And, I was just, really just not doing well. And I go out in the middle of the night, and they had these little dogs. They were all mostly little brown dogs, little kind of golden brown dogs. Some of them were a little bit bigger. Some of them were black, but the most of them were this. They were all the same size. They were wild dogs that were just around the city, and they were really friendly. They come up, and sometimes there would be puppies, and the puppies would starve, and I'd be walking to the ashram going, I just really don't feel like seeing a dead puppy today. Fucking, it was just that bad. The puppies didn't have anything to eat, and there's hundreds of these dogs in a couple of city blocks, and during the day they're real passive. But at night, they all fucking bark, and they're barking coming from everywhere. There's hundreds of dogs barking at me. It was like a horror movie. They don't usually attack, I think, but it was I'm half dizzy trying to flag down an auto rickshaw or a cab on a street that's completely empty. But my other son had a bike that somebody had lent him, and he flew by me and went to get the doctor. But anyway, so, and I continued to get sick. My son got better. But then there was a point where I looked at the symptoms, And I was pretty sure I had tuberculosis, which is a thing in India. And it really fucks you. I would have been sick for years. I mean, it would have been a disaster. Everything that happened later, because my ex was going to leave, and I was going to have to take this stressful crisis, my family was in, and deal with it myself for a couple of years and get my family back to America. And I wouldn't have been able to do that with tuberculosis. And I was sure to have it. And my ex had looked up the same information, and she was pretty sure I had it. And we went to go get tested the next day, and I was like going, oh, they're going to fucking diagnose me with tuberculosis, and I'm going to have to be isolated. I mean, it's going to be a fucking nightmare. And that morning, I woke up, and I'm like, I don't have it anymore. It was like I was sure I had it, and I'm pretty sure I did have it. And I went, and they tested me, and they diagnosed me with this thing. It sounded like a dinosaur's name. I talked about it years ago. And it was a disease, something people get if they're really old, and they're in the hospital, and they pick up this infection in the hospital when their immune system's down. It was the weirdest thing. But I think it's like, on a spiritual level, like I had tuberculosis, and then it just switched. And, people can believe me or not, but I've had this experience before. When I was just about at death's door, whatever it might be, there's a time where I've talked about some of these things before. And, my brother got really sick in India, and people are like, oh, you should change your flight. And, and not go. And my brother doesn't deal with being sick very well. And he doesn't like India. He was like wanting to get home. And they're like, you should change your flight. And he said, no, I'm going to make it, right? He goes to the people, have you ever heard of anybody who committed to going on a flight and then they were sick and they didn't get better and they didn't make it home? And they're like, well, no. And he was like, yeah, so why would I be the first? And my brother got better the day before. Then this guy came out, this doctor, after Master Charji had died. And he said, he said at these gatherings, like before the gathering, Charji was getting sicker and sicker each year, to the point where he was like so sick, they were like, we got to cancel the gathering. And Charji was like, no. And the day of the gathering, he was 100% better. And this was the spiritual aspect of these things, where I would get sick on a gathering or traveling or, no matter what, I always think that it has something to do with spiritual cleaning. There's a guy who ended up, a really nice guy, but ended up having sort of a cunt of a wife. And he ended up spying on me and my new wife. And it was, for my ex-wife, it was a whole thing. I've told the story over and over again. But he was in India, and he said he was leaving. And he was in the airport. He started to get sick, like really sick. And then, the flight, he thought he could make it on the flight. And then the flight got delayed. He was like, I can't do it. I got to go home and go to the hospital. And he, went to the hospital. He came back out. He got dengue fever. And he came after my son had it, and we were talking about this. He came to India. And he said, Master Charji said, well, you needed 2 more weeks of cleaning. Like Charji was clear that this was spiritually generated. And so, that's always what I think about these things. I mean, it's, there's some plan to this. And my death date is my death date. And I'm not going to undermine my health by taking fucking poisons that I consider poisons from a bad system, and undermine my confidence in that aspect of it. Like if there's something that's good, I'll see it, and if it falls into my path, I'll do it. There was someone who left a comment, and someone wrote me an herbalist wrote me something about reducing the amount of berberine that I'm taking, and it sounded like a good idea. Someone said that they suffered some side effects from berberine, and so I'm reducing the berberine, see if that helps, because I felt like this was part of it. I felt like I was supposed to get that information, as part of it. But I haven't. I mean, there's been times I haven't taken the berberine, and I still have had the issues. But either way, like it's just a way to look at things, right? And my way of looking at things is the opposite of the allopathic way, opposite of the scientific way. Not that I don't believe in science. I just don't believe in people's ability to use science correctly without selfish financial or systemic corruption being a part of it. That's why I don't trust allopathic medicine. I mean, I don't love the model of allopathic medicine, but if we had amazing people and the system wasn't for-profit medicine, I would think about it completely different. I mean, I might not, I'd still go outside the model, but I could at least trust the sincerity of the people and the system itself. And I don't trust that, right? So my video just went up. It's 10:48 here. I wanted to get to one comment, but this comment I saw. So someone wrote, Do you make money from subscribers who have premium? I've always wondered. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I mean, I think having premium is great. I have it. I'm not telling other people to get it, but I don't have to watch ads, and it supports the channels that I watch. I don't know how much it does, but it does to whatever extent. Like if everybody who watched my channel had premium, it would probably be enough for me to keep on going. And it has the benefits. Like I download a lot of videos that I can download on devices, and they're permanently there. So I can download videos that I need in a post-apocalypse. Let's say the internet went off. I have a lot of videos of things that I have some recipes that I have, that I keep there. And then some other things, that are post-apocalyptic things. And, so it's, I mean, I think in terms of the YouTube, people like hate on YouTube, but like I like YouTube more than I like Netflix or any of the, people pay for Netflix and pay for, when any number of things. And YouTube is much better. Like, whatever corruption, whatever way they're fucking us over in the truth community, YouTube is a much more, has been much more significant in my life than these other apps, right? I met my wife from my YouTube channel, and then all these other things that have happened. My YouTube channel kept me afloat, my family afloat. I mean, again, not that YouTube's great, but that's what YouTube has meant to me. Amazon never did anything for me, right? I mean, and Amazon's better than Netflix. I mean, Amazon has done things for me, but Netflix and Peacock and HBO and these other subscription-based systems, Hulu, they haven't done anything for me but just show me shitty content or whatever. So those, I would prefer to have a YouTube subscription. So this person wrote last night, and this is kind of funny. This is a regular person, but it's kind of fucked up too. I don't think I'd even be on YouTube if it weren't for your videos. Well, that's good. I hope your wife keeps your channel up after you leave. I'll be watching reruns, LOL. You mean when I die? So you want me to tell my wife to make sure she keeps my channel up so you can watch reruns after I die? It's just kind of fucked. But I got a lot of donations. I don't know a lot, but I see that there are some because I, talked about this at the beginning of the last video of how, the whole thing. The Sajmark system has kept people alive longer than they should. There's a guy, Don Savarin, he was kind of a saintly guy. I've talked about this. He's from Canada. He was a healer. And he went to fix some antenna on the building at Babaji's house so that they could, it was some kind of bullshit thing. They wanted to watch something or listen to something on the radio. This is back in the 70s or something. And a lightning bolt hit the fucking antenna or something. Or there was electricity. Somehow he got electrocuted. And he died. And he had this very vivid experience of wanting to, stay dead. He was in what we call the brighter world, and Babaji's soul came up, and they had a conversation. Babaji said, you have to go back. And so he did. And, he went and got all these tests. He was a registered nurse and a chiropractor, and he was he had various healing modalities. He had taken care of Babaji and, in India when Babaji was older and sicker. And other people. Like, people would go to him at a gathering. And he could differentiate between something that was, needed to be addressed or just was cleaning. And he would say, you just got to go through this. Like, he was a real healer. But we went to get these tests, and the doctor's like, you should be dead. There's, like, holes in your brain and shit. Like, he had, like, real fucking severe health issues. And he lived for another 25 years. Like, he died pretty young, I think in his maybe 60s or early 70s. I don't know how old he was. But, like, there's a lot of people that are just sort of kept going because they have spiritual work to do. And, Charji came back from the brink of death, as did Babaji. Like, they had severe health issues. And they, they both lived into their 80s. Lalaji was, the first master was, not as significant in terms of his, his work as a person. Most of his work came later as a soul, in terms of his, making Babaji into a spiritual master, all these things. But, as long as I'm useful to God, God will keep me going. And I have had good, strong health my whole life with some idiosyncratic things. I haven't had anything major, no cancer, no anything. I'm 62. And again, I don't know, what this heart thing is. And, I mean, it's post-COVID. But, I mean, for the most part, I don't, I think that as long as I'm doing God's work, and there's some role they have to play, even as it seems to be toiling at this point. It seems to be pointless to me. Might have an effect on other people or the environment in general, and so I just keep on going because I'm supposed to. And then when that runs out, it runs out. Like that's how life works, and there'll be a time, and whatever that time is, I don't think it's anytime soon. But whatever. Like who's to say? All right. So let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, we're going to start with this CUNT. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today, today is Wednesday, June 17th. That's just pretty harsh. But it's true. So I just am rendering my video, and I'm going to put it up for tomorrow, Thursday. This video's going up Friday. I'm way ahead. Like my video went 3 hours for Thursday, and I had to cut it off. Some of that's because of long voiceovers, but mostly there was a lot of content from videos. And as I was putting it together, all this shit came in. Trump's losing his mind. You can tell when Trump's read all the criticism, and these guys are all attacking him. Israel is going after him, and he's getting it from both sides. The deal's a mess, and he's trying to rebrand his failure like he always does. And he's obviously triggered. He's on a trip. He's been going to G7, where the fuck it is, meeting with these prime ministers, and then scrambling to sell a deal that basically negates the whole war. Like make it just pointless. Make it something where, why the fuck did we do that for this, right? In terms of the deal with Iran. So we're going to get into all that because he's scrambling. I'm sure it's going to go on for the next couple days. So I got stuff already, and he's already kind of melting down. But let's start off with this. Okay, I know what the C stands for. I don't know what the K stands for. We know the C stands for cunt, but I don't know what the K is. People can maybe come up with a... I mean, I want to say kicker, but I don't know if that's... whatever. But she thinks it means Charlie Kirk. She's wearing her husband's initials on a hat. And I bet that's merch that they sell, so... but, like ick. Like, just the whole thing with the way that she... everyone knows that you're married to Charlie Kirk. The reason that we have to endure you, because you wouldn't be a celebrity or somebody that would be out there because you're 100% unlikable. Like you would never be an influencer or anything of any substance, substantial. But because you're married to Charlie Kirk, we have to endure her and make fun of her. And so she's at it again here.
I have been married for 10 years. My husband is a hard-working farmer who is gone a lot. A year ago, I was questioning my marriage and felt like I was losing myself in the chaotic life of work and motherhood. Since finding a church, I recently got baptized. My kids attend Sunday school, and we talk about Jesus in our home daily. Instead of nagging my husband, I embrace his hard work.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, bro. I mean her. And him. Come on, you fake fuck. I mean, that's like what? Like, because she put nagging in air quotes, unless the woman put quotes around nagging. But were you nagging Charlie Kirk, and now you're sad that you would treat him like shit? Is that like what would make you cry over this email? Now, you didn't read this ahead of time. Are you just reading this randomly? I don't want to go find the whole interview. But like, what would make you like not be prepared for this moment? Or do you just want to cry again because that's your fucking go-to move? You're fake fucking crying. I mean, there's nothing worth crying about this thing. She's losing herself in her marriage because that's what happens to women when they embrace the traditional housewife role. They lose themselves, right? Because the family overtakes them and they become secondary. And, that's just what happens. It's part of the role. It's not a great role. I can understand why you'd be upset about it, but especially with modern day egoism. But that's what happens. It happens to parents, both of them. As you get married, your relationship progresses. You give up some of your say over what you get to do with your life and your free time. When you get a good job, that happens. You can't post shit on social media like you used to. You're accountable, especially when you become famous. That happens. And when you're in a marriage, you have to think of the other person. You have to change your habits to accommodate them. Like you give up some of your things that you like to do. Some of the things that you used to like to do, you got to give up, when you have kids, whatever it is. You can't smoke crack anymore, like fucking whatever she used to do, right? She liked the ladies. She liked them, the ladies. And so, like that just happens. But I don't know what the fuck would make her cry over that thing. This woman was bummed out about her, she's feeling sorry for herself because her marriage sucks and she's being drained by her horizontal relationship. She finds a church and she writes this letter that may or may not be true or might be true for that day. Like people post shit like this on social media, but it's not true. Like they pretend they solve a problem and it's good for a week. And then, this woman might be divorced in a year or two. Who the fuck knows, right? Whatever it is. And she'll be back. I'm sure she'll be back nagging her fucking husband. That shit doesn't go away, right? So anyways, why it's not going?
Sorry.
It's okay.
You want to finish reading it, sweetheart? Let me finish reading it.
I love him like a wife should when he comes home. Instead of losing myself to motherhood, I've completely embraced every second of it. Never wanting my precious babies to grow up. It seems like the more I pour myself into my daily readings, church and family, the devil shows his face more than I have ever witnessed.
Is he showing his face right fucking here? Is his face right here? Bro, is that the difference?
Why does it seem like the closer you get to God, the harder the devil works on you?
Oh my God, it's so much. It's just so true.
Look, for those of you that can't see, and I have the blessing and the benefit of knowing Erica and Charlie so well that I know exactly why Erica's in tears.
Because she's a cunt and she's fucking a fake crier. She really loves to be a victim and she loves to... just stop. Look at this fucking face right here. Fucking jeez. My mouse went. So I'm having to use my manual mouse until I get done with this segment. Which I'm not, the keyboard mouse.
Man. And I have been married for 10 years.
Okay, so that was it. So, when I thought about my mouse, my mouse yesterday, I often think about, I should charge it. And I forget, and I'm like, oh yeah, you got to do that, but it's not the right time. And then I forget about it, and then it dies right in the middle of this fucking, when I'm in cunt land. All right. So that's Erica J. Cunt.
CNN has obtained the text of a 14-point memorandum of understanding.
It's a memorandum of understanding, right?
Between the U.S. and Iran. CNN's Kevin Liptak is in Geneva, Switzerland. Kevin, can you tell us about what you've learned so far?
Right, and this text, Audie, has not been officially released by either side of this. We've heard from American officials over the last couple of days that they were planning to release this officially after it is formally signed here in Switzerland on Friday. But now CNN has obtained a copy of it. We've gotten a copy from a U.S. official. We've gotten a version of it from a diplomat who has seen copies.
Okay, just fucking get on with it.
Of it circulating here at the G7 summit and 2 additional sources. So we have 4.
Well, I know why he's saying that because Trump's going to say it's fake news because that's what Trump and his people do.
Sources from which we have obtained the text of this document. In some ways, it does reflect how American officials have been characterizing it over the last several days. It is vague in a lot of its terms, particularly when it comes to Iran's nuclear program. It lays out in broad terms how the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened, how the U.S. will lift its blockade on Iranian ports, and it does spell out what the financial relief that Iran can expect as part of this deal if it meets its commitments. And so it does specify, for example, that Iran will be able to gain access to a $300 billion development fund. American officials have been explicit that the U.S. will not provide the funding for that, but that $300 billion figure is included in this document. It also specifies that Iran will be able to start exporting oil, and that the U.S. Will lift some of the, or it will issue waivers for some of the sanctions immediately upon the signing of this memorandum.
All right, so he's giving back things that Iran had lost before the war, right? So Iran wasn't going to get a nuclear weapon. I mean, they were, maybe they want one. I'm sure they want one, but they haven't really done anything to get one. And so that part of the deal is going to be the same as Obama. So nothing's changed. They're going to get $300 billion for, reconstruction for what America did to them. Who knows who's going to pay for that? Maybe some of these other countries outside, some of these Middle East countries. And the U.S. isn't getting dick, right? They're nothing that we didn't already have, right? And so, Trump might be getting some kind of compensation from the oil personally, or just getting some kind of contracts there. Who knows, how that's going to work out, some kickbacks. Like Trump might have gotten something if they wanted to give it to him, but this looks like Iran won, right? And Trump's saying that they're not going to get $300 billion, but it's there already in this text.
Of understanding. And so those are some of what is included in the document. It's 14 points long, and I do want to pull out one of those 14 points specifically as it relates to Iran's nuclear program, because I think this is important, and this, at the end of the day, is one of the reasons that the president has said that he started the war in the first place, is to eliminate Iran's ability to obtain a nuclear weapon. And this is what the Memorandum of Understanding says on this point. It's point number 8. It says the Islamic Republic of Iran reiterates that it will never produce nuclear weapons. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States have agreed that the fate of enriched material and the fate of all other mutually agreed nuclear-related issues, including Iran's nuclear needs, will be adequately addressed in a final agreement. The final agreement will confirm.
All right, so America didn't get shit, right? And so, of course, their government can change, or they can just say fuck you and go against this once America's out of the region. I mean, we're not going to go back in, so, whatever. But, they're not going to do that anyway because, unless they can secretly make a nuclear weapon without Israel figuring it out, whatever. It's fucked. This is a complete loss for Trump. So here, also the story that the U.S. is paying Iran $300 million is fake news put out by the Democrats. Well, it's not by the Democrats. It's any number of people. But when you don't tell people what you're doing, then either they're going to rely on leaks or speculation or a number of things. That's your own fault. If you don't give the information up front, then it looks like you're embarrassed by the deal. But they are getting $300 million. So Trump's is parsing words here, but they're getting $300 billion. Is it billion? Whatever it is. But they're getting all this shit back. It can't be $300 million because that's nothing. Anyways, did that guy say billion? Let's go back to that CNN thing. It's billion, not million, so.
And so it does specify, for example, that Iran will be able to gain access to a $300 billion development fund. American officials have been explicit that the U.S. will not provide the funding for.
All right, so we don't know where that's going to come from, but they're still getting the money. And it's billion, not million. Of course it's billion. Why the fucking $300 million? It's nothing to these motherfuckers, right? No one would be even talking about $300 million, which is crazy. But anyways, Trump, it's a disaster. Israel's pissed. Who knows where that goes? Maybe they drop Epstein files. I was saying to my wife, if they drop the Epstein files, J.D. Vance seems to be against this Iran war in the first place. He might take a different approach to Israel. We don't know. But either if Trump was Epstein and was kicked out, impeached or, whatever, it came out that that they have, devastating information that Israel has and they release it, that'll also, just in terms of them obviously blackmailing the president, because that's what that would mean, and nobody would really, they might be able to deny it, but would these people would all know Israel fucked them. And then, fucked America too. And so, like, that would, Israel would be done with America. Like, if they burn Trump. And the Democrats are not going to be better with Trump, with Israel now. They're pretty much fucked either way. So if they decide to burn Trump, and we'll see what they do. Because, Trump has been their greatest ally in the White House, and they're not going to get a better person than him. But, now he's going, whatever. He's going it up. He's being a disobedient goy. But either way, like, this is going south quickly. Okay, so as Trump starts to fucking flame out here, because people don't like his deal, this is the first video clip I saw. I saw the beginning of this.
Keep moving.
Look at this guy. Looks like he's AI. Look at that fucking thing. That's not a real person. Look at him. That's not a real fucking person there. Look at his face. That's all like cartoonish. He's cartoonish too. What's happening here? Those are not real fucking people. This guy even more so, but Trump. And that guy, this is what fucking AI.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I just want to say His Highness is a warrior. He was in there fighting, and he does what has to be done, and he's known for it. He's a courageous man. He's got...
What the fuck do you mean a warrior? First of all, he's AI. I don't know. This is the Forbes. I think I saw this live. I don't know if I saw this one or one on TV. I can't remember where I saw this. But that's not like, it's like they've put it through a filter. And how is he a warrior? He's a fucking prince. You call him Your Highness. Why is he Your Highness? Why do you gotta call people like who aren't your, he's not Your Highness. He's Your Highness to the fucking poor ass motherfuckers that live in this country.
A great country. It's a fantastic country.
UAE. So the people of UAE, yeah, they got to call this motherfucker Your Highness, just like they call Prince or King Charles Your Highness, but he's not Your Highness.
And they've been with the United States for a long time, but I would say much more so since I came on board, I will say. They've invested trillions of dollars in the United States, and I was telling them before at another meeting that we have over $19 trillion being invested in the United States, which is a record. And it's building factories, car plants, everything. We're doing things that have never been done. The record was $3 billion many years ago with a different country. And we're going to be over 19. I think we'll head to $19.3 trillion.
You mean the most anybody's ever invested in a foreign country is $3 billion, and now you have all these people buying up like fucking national parks and all kinds of shit, and you're saying that's a good thing, and you're getting a cut of it, and the four slobs that like your WWE bullshit, they're getting fucked. Is that what you mean?
So there's probably not going to be anything. Maybe we'll do better next year. I don't know if it can. I don't know if you can do better. But I just want to say that the relationship has been outstanding. He's a man of great respect. Everybody respects him, and they respect your country. And it's an honor to be with you.
Right. So I just want to show that part. We call him Your Highness. Let me see if there's anything else here. So AI filtered Trump.
We're going to spend $300 billion. No, we're not. We're allowed to go and invest if we wanted to someday in the future. We have no obligation whatsoever. It could be that Iran will turn out to be successful and they have oil. But if we left a week ago, just left, before the last two attacks, it would have taken them 20 years to rebuild Iran. So, but I'll go over the document with the media in a couple of days.
Mr. President, a few weeks back you said you'd like to see other nations join the Abraham Accords, much like the UAE has. Have there been any discussions with Arab?
Yeah, fuck the Abraham Accord. What a weird name, too. So I'm going through this. I'm trying to find, there might have been something in here that he's losing his shit over. So it happens now quite frequently is I'll see something on Twitter. Somebody will send me something to Trump saying something fucking crazy. And then I go get the full context because I'm sure he's going to, I go find the full speech or press conference or whatever. And I put it up on my toolbar, and then maybe a couple of days go by, and he said so much other crazy shit, and so much other stuff has happened that I'm not sure what is in the video. And I had this up there, and I know I wanted to talk about Trump calling the guy Your Highness, but I knew that I saw that when I first pulled up the video. And I think he said something else in here. I'm editing right now. And so I was going through these clips trying to remember the reason I put this up in the first place. Because there's just like, every day is crazy land.
Good question, actually.
Mr. President, what do you say to Republicans like Senator Lindsey Graham, who is skeptical of the MOU?
Lindsey is skeptical?
Yes.
I'll have to talk to Lindsey. He'll be in big trouble.
He's in big trouble, that little bitch. I have to give him a fucking spanking.
Lindsey's good. Lindsey's fine. He's not skeptical. He's just fine. Look, this agreement covers something very nicely. We're not paying for anything. We're not doing anything. The markets now are higher than they were when we started. Remember that. The stock market now is 2,500, maybe even more than that, points higher than...
Okay, why don't you find out what he actually said? Because he's Israel's bitch. You know this is about Israel, right? So then this.
Senator Graham also said that an eventual agreement with Iran should be sent to Congress for review. Would you do that?
I never thought of it, but I would. I wouldn't mind.
I don't think about shit like that. What do you mean send things to Congress? What do you mean checks and balances? What do you mean democracy? What are you fucking talking about?
The Democrats, we call them Democrats because they're dumb people.
Yeah, we do. That's what we call them because they're dumb and they like put dumb in front of their name instead of Democrats. Like, you get it, right? Like if I said Democrats, it'd be Democrats. But if I say Democrats, I'm making fun of them because they're all stupid. Because they're stupid. Democrats are fucking dumb.
The Democrats are, well, what I'd like to do is send it to Congress saying you shouldn't approve it, and I'll get it approved. Because they do whatever I say, they want to do the opposite. It's not working too well for them, by the way. But yeah, I never thought...
Except the midterms and then everything else.
about saying, I never even thought about it, but I will.
I never even thought about shit like that. I didn't fucking think about what's Congress have to do with my job.
To Congress, I like the idea.
On another topic,
I mean, who wouldn't approve it? Let's let them have a nuclear weapon. The
It's
Democrats will say, oh, they should have a nuclear weapon. They'll go crazy.
okay. So the Republicans are the ones saying they should be able to approve it because they're the ones who are more owned by Israel right now, and the Democrats are going to would sign it, would get on board with this thing. But if it didn't pass Congress, it would be the Republicans, go against him like they did on Epstein, right? So Trump gets these people who get hijacked into, this is the G7 in France.
Is the text of the agreement now final, or are you still...
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding. And
It's a memorandum of understanding. We've reached a memorandum of understanding. We're understanding in the memorandum.
I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their
When
head.
do you expect the wording?
If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head.
Right smack in the middle of the head. That's the kind of technology we have. We can drop a big fucking bomb right on their heads, every one of them. Like every guy we don't like in Iran, we can just drop a bomb on his fucking head. I mean, you don't even know what we're capable of with our head bombs. I mean, like I was giving Bill Clinton a head bomb. I just took a long nap before this set of clips, and again, it seems like this is AI bullshit. You guys, they're using AI filters. This is from Forbes, so I don't know if Forbes did this or what, but that's just some kind of filter on his fucking face.
Okay? Because they've misbehaved for 47 years. All right?
Does it include...
But nobody could have made this deal. I mean, the JCPOA done by Obama, he handed him $1.7 billion in cash, gave him hundreds of millions of dollars, gave him billions and billions of dollars. But he gave
Now they're getting $300 billion, right? We all know that because we
him $1.7 billion in cash.
in cash. That's the president of Egypt.
clean cash from banks into a Boeing 757 and flew it into Iran. And they stood at the plane. I have pictures of it, like, oh my, look at this money he's giving us. He tried to bribe his way out. I didn't do that. Nobody mentions that. 1.7 billion and hundreds of millions of dollars. They tried to bribe their way out of it. And you know what the Iranians did? They laughed at Obama and they said he's a stupid son of a bitch. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, that was great. I didn't know that part was coming. All right, I didn't see that clip before, so that's wonderful. So that's, and that he's starting to lose his shit because now he's getting criticized by Republicans and Israel. I covered in my last video that guy was turning on him, maybe even more today. This video isn't going up for 2 days, so today's Wednesday, so this one's not going up till Friday. So in the video that's going up tomorrow morning for you guys, in the video I've just completed, whatever that guy's name, Mark Levine, he's criticized. They're all going after Trump. And, when Trump has that, like you see when he knows about it, he gets triggered. And he just starts making shit up. And so I know he did it with Bibi because I have this press conference. Let's pick it up there. So there's a part where he praises Bibi. I know that's coming because I saw that when I was eating lunch. But this is before that.
Please, sir, keep dropping bombs on them. Please keep dropping bombs. The stupid people say that. But I'm thrilled to report, and by the way, those last 2 days were brutal. $200 million worth of bombs. And, it is expensive too, by the way, aside from everything else.
Yeah, your money, your fucking taxpayer money. $200 million. Those last 2 days, we dropped $200 million worth of bombs. Fuck those guys. And, I know you guys are struggling with your fucking gas prices and your food and inflation, but, I'm throwing away $200 million, and then we're going to give them $300 billion to rebuild the place and still have the same old deal that Obama had. I know that's pretty fucked.
And they knew I was coming for a third night. We informed them we're coming for a third night. They didn't have their Navy, it's sunk. They didn't have their Air Force, it's gone, not one plane.
Okay, so then why are you needing to make a deal with them, right?
They didn't have anti-aircraft equipment, so we got free reign. They didn't have their leaders. But they have a new group of leaders that I think is, actually, I think they're smarter. I think they're very smart.
So that means you don't have a consistent government. Like there wasn't an election there, right? They had their one leaders, and he's going to go through all these things. He's talked about this before. You can't make a deal with a government that's created itself, like, saying we're the government, right? In a country that's in disarray. Like, if they don't have all the things he's talking about, then, they don't have an Air Force or Navy, they don't have any kind of military left. For one, why are you making a deal with them? For two, other countries can come in and fuck around with them, and they can't, suppress their people. They can't intimidate their people. And they're just a new set of leaders that just say, hey, we're the government of Iran, right? Can't make a deal with the interim, situational government. It's silly. Like, the whole thing is just silly.
I think they're far less radicalized, and I think they're really good. They love their country. You talk about regime change. Nobody will say that, but I guess look, their one set of leaders is all gone. Their second set of leaders is all gone. Their third set of leaders a little bit gone, but for the most part, and frankly, I think that's regime change. I think they're going to behave much differently. I think they see a different way of life.
Okay, see how stupid this is? Let's say somebody bombed America and destroyed the president and destroyed Congress and, basically all the legislative body and the Supreme Court. And then a new group emerged to lead America out of the rubble. There's that stupid show, which is a good idea, called The Lone Survivor, where Keith Sutherland plays the one guy who's not really in the cabinet that doesn't die because of a bomb. The government's completely wiped out, right? And so you have non-elected American officials, no Senate, no Congress, no president. And then they kill the second level of government. Like a new government assumes control, what's left over. And then they kill J.D. Vance and the rest of these people. And then a new group of people emerge saying, hey, we're now American government. But, like, you know, think about the disarray that would be there. And, you know, and all the media, all the people that, I mean, there's lots of people dead, right? And, you know, there's a power vacuum and people are fucked and there's, you know, sanctions on your country and your kids are starving and, you know, there's issues. And then that new group is going to make a fucking, you're going to make a deal with that new group, right? Like, these are just puppet leaders you put in there and say, hey, sign this fucking document. And then you leave and then they're fucking, like, it goes through multiple phases of collapse. But if there's no regime change, then you're lying, right? Like, you can make a deal with the old regime, which may or may not stay in power, but, like, there's, you know, certainly people in the country that want to overthrow the government. And so this deal is worthless, right? Like, it means fucking nothing.
That they were never exposed to. So the one thing I didn't want to see is I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace, the stock market shot up like a rocket ship. It never went down. They didn't like it. The people, you know, the stock market is more brilliant than anybody there is, including the people on this stage, other than me, of course. Let's see. I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Is the stock market more brilliant than you?
No, sir.
Oh, that's a terrible statement. All right. The stock market.
No, sir. Scott Bissant wasn't fucking willing to say the stock market is smarter than him. Dude, look, this guy's fucking laughing at him, right?
Is quite brilliant. And every time we said something amazing, like we're going to settle, it would go up. And every time we said something negative, like, guess what, we're not going to be able to settle, it would go down very big, Peter, right? Very, very big. Tells you something.
Tells you something. This war was a fucking bad mistake. That's what it tells you, moron. That this war was a fucking mistake. That getting out of there was fucking, you know, economic catastrophe. That's what he's trying to avoid. A global economic catastrophe where billions of fucking people starve and die because of the Strait of Hormuz, and any number of things would start to happen. Desperate people in desperate countries, right? Because Israel told you to fucking do something that you should never have fucking done, right? That's why you're taking a shitty deal, you moron, right?
And you know, I've studied presidents, some good, some bad, some great. Not too many are great, and some really bad. We had one just recently. And the one president I did not want to be was the late, great Herbert Hoover. I didn't want that, and who knows what would have happened. But bad things happen, so the past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of...
You know, there's these cities in the Depression called Hooverville, right? I mean, you know, he doesn't want to talk about this, but I didn't want to create a depression. So the Iranian war was about to create a fucking depression. The late, great Herbert Hoover, who brought in the depression, you know, that happened because they switched over to a debt-based usury system. That's when the Federal Reserve came in, you know, the Jekyll Island fucking disaster, where a bunch of leaders and businessmen and bankers created the first Federal Reserve, right? You know, they now have all these banks across the world, and that brought in the fucking depression. And he's saying that the Iranian war was going to bring in the depression, and he didn't want to be that fucking guy. So Trump, this is the fucking headline. Hopefully I'll remember this is the title. I should put it down on my phone. Trump says he doesn't want to be Herbert Hoover, meaning, you know, if the Iranian war was going to bring in depression.
They deal with the closest friends and allies, heads of countries. They were all here, a lot of them. Far more than the 7, as you know, a lot of them. And
It says G7, but there's more than 7. All right, let me find the other piece here. So somebody left me a comment. When I took my nap, I woke up to, and I've been thinking about it throughout this thing. You know, I don't want to interrupt this Trump going on this thing. It also called me through his transcript, and it's in capital letters for some reason this time. You know, this YouTube video, it's all in caps, the whole transcript. And I'm reading this stuff going, did he just fucking say that? And I got to click on it to see. It's so fucked up. Like here. Anyways, I'm gonna get to this comment after I get through this thing.
That the hormones, don't forget, if we were going to drop bombs, let's say we went another month, another 2-3 months, maybe weeks, could be another 3 months, could be whatever. What do you have left? Got maybe nothing, but you don't have, the strait will never be open because people that own billion-dollar ships, these ships cost $1 billion, they don't like sailing ships or having their ships participate when you go up the coast and you go through the strait and there are rockets flying over your head. They want to protect their $1 billion investment.
So he's talking about really wealthy people in the Gulf, these fucking countries who have $1 billion yachts. Like he's talking about $1 billion yachts and they're going through the strait because, you know, there's really rich oil countries there. And, you know, these people who are, you know, fake royalty or whatever the fuck they are, who have all this oil and they're fucking, you know, crazy ass rich and they give Trump planes and this kind of shit. You know, these guys were sick of tired of being on their yachts and seeing fucking missiles going over their heads. So we had to make a deal. We couldn't, if we were going to bomb until there was nothing left, and that would be a nuclear bomb, right? I mean, like, you know, like this is the fucking situation you got yourself in. It's like, you're a moron, right?
You wouldn't have oil for maybe years. These are stupid people. But nobody was tougher than me. Nobody hit Soleimani. You know, when I hit Soleimani, people thought that was the biggest thing to happen in the Middle East for 50 years. That was the biggest event. He was the boss of Iran. And
masking as a terrorist. What are you talking about?
Respected, but he was a mad genius. He was a genius. The father of the roadside bomb. When you
just like you were the father of the vaccine. Well, that's true.
See young men, and in some cases women, mostly men, walking around without legs, without arms.
Walking around without legs and without arms. He's saying that again. Walking around without legs and without arms.
With a face that's been blown to smithereens.
You know, they can't even, I mean, they have no face. It's all over the smithereens. They have a smithereen face.
Soleimani, 95%, 96.2 they say or something. 95%. That was Soleimani did it. Happened to come from Iran, and I blew him up. You remember that? I blew him up.
You didn't do anything. They came to you with a plan and said, we can kill this guy Soleimani. And you said, okay, let's do it. Probably didn't know who he was or very much about it. They told you who he was. You don't write very curious. Remember, he talked about, like, if he had to sit in on one of these briefings, you'd get bored. And then you were like, all right, go ahead, blow him up. That's not you doing anything. That's you allowing or allowing the plan that the military brass put together be executed when they sold it to you, right? It was like some person came up and said, you know, hey, boss, you want us to do this thing? And you go, yeah. You know, you gave him permission. That's about it. Like, you didn't fucking blow him up.
In the Valley of Death, he got off his plane and we followed him. And in all fairness, because they've been wonderful to me, Israel, but they didn't want to do that attack. They were all set the night before the attack. They informed me they didn't want to do it, so I had to make a decision. I made the decision to do it. But it was a joint venture, as we
Why?
say.
Because was he their asset? Was he their asset, you know, in Iran? They're creating a possible war that they wanted? Was that why?
In the real estate business, that was a joint venture between Israel and us. We studied it for a month. We knew what plane he was going to be on almost a month before. He only traveled on commercial airliners, the big ones with lots of people, because he knew we wouldn't shoot him down. He's very smart. But we knew he was going to be on that plane. We followed him, and then Israel informed
Why?
me
Because he bought tickets? Because he...
that they won't do it. And I had to make a decision. I had some very good generals, and not the ones you see on television, very good. And I want to thank also Pete Hegseth and General Raisin Kane, who's phenomenal. Okay, these guys are phenomenal. They can't be better.
Pete Hegseth wasn't fucking... He was getting drunk on Fox News when you took out Soleimani.
But I had some good generals, and I said to him, well, if Israel's not going to do it, we're all prepared. Do we do it? Do you like doing it or not? He said, sir, if If you want to do it, we can do it. How well? We'll do it just as well or better. Do it ourselves. We don't need anybody. So we took out Soleimani. One of the biggest events to happen, the Middle East, maybe ever, but they say 50.
Maybe ever. I mean, that and Jesus being born there. Like Jesus is second or third, but killing Soleimani, it's more important than Jesus being born, Jesus dying. All the Jesus stuff, that's not as good as what would happen with Soleimani.
Years, they say 100 years. I was with the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He said it's maybe the biggest event that has ever taken place. It's like nobody could believe it. So that's when it started. It didn't start like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago. And Obama wouldn't do it. What Obama did was he did the JCPOA. He loaded up a plane.
I mean, it was a lot of cash. He's going to go back into this shit. But he just said that killing Soleimani was bigger than Jesus being born. Anything Jesus did. It was just bigger than Jesus, all of Jesus. Soleimani, us killing Soleimani, bigger than Jesus. Okay, so here's the part about Bibi.
After that. And they got a deal that was a road to a nuclear weapon. I get so angry, I guess. I'm allowed to get angry when I watch the Democrats. They talk about it all the time. We had this deal done. You had a deal that was going to give them legally a nuclear weapon. And if that happened, Israel would have been blown away. And in all fairness to Bibi Netanyahu, who happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes.
When I'm jiggling his nuts.
Happens to be a very good man. We've had an amazing partnership. He's been an amazing prime minister. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it that's from Hezbollah. But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say...
So you're saying every time somebody that he thinks is from Hezbollah walks into a building in Lebanon, Israel knocks the whole building down. Is that what you're saying? That's a fucking war crime, you fuck. Keep on jiggling his nuts there, fucking. Keep on looking at his nuts.
We're the big partner, and he's the very small partner, and that's true. So he came to the country, and he begged Barack Hussein Obama, the president, not to do the JCPOA. He said it could be the end of Israel, and it would have been if I didn't come along. And Obama didn't listen to him. Bibi actually went to Congress and pleaded with them, and he got nowhere. And they had this horrible...
So he keeps on, but he's repeating these talking points over and over again. Because he's getting fucking... I mean, this is a break with Israel, and it's going to get worse because Israel can't stand this deal. And this deal, I mean, they're not going to allow this deal to happen. And you're going to see who's the fucking bigger... who has more power when they fucking humble Trump somehow or some way, and then when this deal blows up in Iran and this war is back on with Iran.
That was horrible for Israel, and that's where it stood. And then I came along and I terminated that deal. It had very little time left. It was a short-term deal. With countries, you need hundreds of years. You don't need 8 years and 9 years.
Right. So let me see if there's anything else here. I wanted to show those things. But you can see Trump is now being triggered because this is a fucked up deal. Because the deal basically is the Obama deal, right? Like that's what everyone's saying. Kind of worse because now, you've done military action. You see that they can close the Strait of Hormuz, and if you don't want to do a ground war or, drop a nuclear bomb on them, you don't have any really recourse. You can't fucking beat them, right? Like he's being humbled here. And no American president's going to want to get bogged down. And so there's no longer these threats because you really can't do shit to Iran because, you don't want to, there's a ground war is untenable. And none of these future presidents are going to want to do that. And so Israel's fucked now because they want to take control of the Middle East and America didn't go far enough. And so, Israel's on the hook now to go and take the promised land back on their own, and they really can't do it. And so they're desperate. Like I said, this was, I said this way back when it was the end of Biden, 1.0 and going into Trump 2.0. And what I said was, and I don't know shit about any of these things. Like I'm not an expert, But just judging by what's going on, and Trump was going to give them a blank check. And even Obama and Biden, who were, certainly owned by Israel, weren't owned this much. Every American president and all the, way that Israel has influence over the media, all these things. And if they were going to get the promised land, if they were going to go and be a superpower in the Middle East, or even just survive, they had to do it before America collapsed. And when Biden was, when Trump and Biden were running against each other the first time, I said, well, whoever's in charge of their presidency, the Biden 1.0, is going to be in charge of the looting of what was left of America. And of course, that wasn't totally true because Trump is now in charge of that. And maybe the next president will be in charge of that. It might be, 3 administrations of looting what's left of American wealth before America collapses. When America collapses and no longer is the predominant power, and people already see China surpassing America in many ways, and Israel no longer has their protector. Or if America turns on Israel like it's doing, these young people who grow up hating Israel, and that's not going to go away. So this was their last chance. They had to go for it. Because once they don't have America, they're sitting duck out there unless they make a deal with China or some other country. And they don't really have very much to offer, other than manipulation and spying and backstabbing and all that shit, right? They don't have resources. They don't have an economy. They don't have any, resources. They don't have any way of, they don't have trillions of dollars in oil money like these other countries. And so Israel had to do it now. They're desperate because America's fading and Israel doesn't have as long as, once America is collapsed and our military is a mess and we don't have the money and the ability to fight their wars for them anymore, what are they going to do? Right? So this is where we're at. So here's like another fucked up thing he said.
Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, think of it, Bahrain, Kuwait, they got hit. Nobody thought that was, even I didn't think it was going to happen. They didn't think it was going to happen. They were going to take out the entire Middle East, including Israel.
So he's saying that they had missiles he didn't know about. That they hit all these countries and they didn't know Iran had that stockpile of missiles. And these countries were getting pummeled by Iranian missiles, and we'll never know whatever happened. But he's saying nobody knew Iran had this kind of capabilities. They've been getting supported by Russia and China, maybe for this very event, and he didn't know. He was, I didn't know what was going to happen. Going into a war where you don't know what Iran has or doesn't have, but all of a sudden now you do know. You know that you've taken out all their stockpiles, but obviously that's not the case because you wouldn't be making a deal with them if they didn't have if they didn't have some leverage. And you didn't know about the Strait of Hormuz either. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it within moments after getting it. So I made it very tough for them.
Yeah, but they weren't. They were they were attacked every time here. Regardless of what's going on in Lebanon, these things.
I terminated the Barack Hussein Obama catastrophe. JCPOA, one of the worst deals. NAFTA might have been worse.
Look at this poor motherfucker who's just got to stand there.
But that was worse economically. This deal was really dangerous, what he did. He gave them everything, including a lot of money, which we don't give them, by the way, just in case you have any question. We'll be giving this out so you can read it and you can see. And it's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, that's all right. We go back to bombing. I don't want to do that because it's so good. But
what's so good? Not having a depression, right? Or, when you killed Soleimani, that was bigger than Jesus? Like, fuck.
Have to, because we're never going to let them have a nuclear weapon. But they've agreed not to, and you'll see that very clearly in the agreement. But then the second phase of that was they were building, or they were enriching material, as they say. I call it nuclear dust. They were enriching material under granite mountains. Granite being, for those not in the construction business, granite being the strongest stone. It's not as pretty as marble, but it's much stronger. It's
not as pretty as marble, but it's fucking way stronger. All right. Like, Ruben's like, oh my God, like fucking this. He's watching his fucking future go down the toilet. Marco Polo Rubio watching his fucking this future go down like, oh my God, I'm gonna be held accountable for all this bullshit. So he did another like 5 minutes on just granite, which is kind of funny, but I don't want to. I got other clips to show you, and this is already, I have 2 more days before. Yeah, it's gonna be all this stuff. Like he's spiraling. So let's just end it here, unless there's something else. Well, I got one more thing to show you. Then he starts talking about the possibility of nuclear war.
Like that, it's like a steel wall. So what happened is we then terminated that, and I call it the nuclear dust, and that was the end of that. But if we didn't hit that with the B-2 bombers, or if it wasn't successful, they would have had a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb at a very high level, not the highest, but it would have been a very high level. We have much bigger, but we hope that we're never going to have to use it. We have the most. Russia has second. China is very far behind, but going to catch up, unfortunately. They're catching up. But we have the most. We have the most powerful. But we also have the most. But Russia's not far behind. And then you have China in third place, but within 5 years, they'll be probably even. And we ought to make a denuclearization deal. It would be so great. We don't need all of that. We don't need to be able to blow up the whole world.
We don't need that. We don't need that fucking the power to render all life fucking make the earth uninhabitable for all creatures. We shouldn't have that power. I mean, human beings have shown such sane behavior and such wisdom, and we're just so wonderful, and would never fucking do something like that. I mean, we don't make bad fucking decisions or mistakes every 2 seconds. We're not egotistically religious fanatics. It is egotistically driven religious fanatics and just dumb fucks and petty and just stupid that we would, I mean, what the fuck are you talking about, right? Of course we shouldn't have these fucking weapons. We shouldn't have like fucking guns, right? We can't even handle that.
300 times over. It's terrible. It's really, if we could do a denuke deal, I'd love it. And one of those two is very willing to do it, I will tell you. But the other one is less willing to do it. And you need all of them. So the deal we reached with Iran on Sunday will be signed shortly. Tomorrow, maybe the next day. Subject deals. My whole life is all about deals. That's all I ever did is make deals.
And bad ones. You obviously suck at it, right? All right. So I'm going to scroll through this thing. I'm sure there'll be things that, unless something huge happens, I got to move away from this thing here. And I want to answer that comment after this. And then I have a whole bunch of videos from the last couple of days that had to do building up to this moment where he realizes he's going to get fucking rolled. Because if Israel's against the deal, which they are, that means the American media is going to be against it, even more so. I mean, Fox and all those people, the people usually on Trump's side. And then MSNBC and CNN will go in harder. And so there's going to be no one, and all the people on the, you'll have all the people, the Ben Shapiros and the fucking Laura Loomers and all these people, Levin, and all of them, they're all going to go in hard on him. And, and even some of the people like Lindsey Graham, his allies. So, like, he knows he's fucked. And, like, he's going to try to bullshit his way out of this. But this is kind of worse than the Afghanistan withdrawal by Biden. That was a catastrophe, but it was going to be a catastrophe. Biden wasn't the one who started that war. And so, this is bad for Trump. Okay, holy shit. If there's something else he says that's going to pop, I'm sure I'll see it on Twitter, and I think he's going to spiral out this whole fucking G7. He's lost his shit. He's traveling. This is similar to what happened to Biden right before the debate, where he was traveling around and he came back. He was all sick and depleted and worn out and fucking, and then he had to do that debate with Trump, remember? But he says this here.
Some people found it okay. These guys didn't, in all fairness, but some people. But I didn't like it. Said it won't develop. I said, what happens if they should buy? I don't know. It's very dangerous for somebody to sell, because whoever sells them a nuclear weapon will get nuked themselves. If they sold a nuclear weapon, only a few that could do it, they would be nuked.
So you mean China or Russia? So he's saying if China or Russia sells Iran a nuclear weapon, then he's going to nuke China or Russia, which will lead to a nuclear war, right? So
Have that country long. So it's a very dangerous thing for somebody to do. But I wanted it in there. So it's develop, procure, buy, anything.
So you put in, you can't buy a nuclear weapon either. I want it in there. Like, I don't know. Like, no one else saw that possibility that they might just buy one. So I put it in there. You can't buy one either. Oh, fuck. We're going to buy one. Jesus Christ, you caught us. Like, fuck.
And you'll see that when you see the agreement, but it's appropriate that we release the agreement. And we did send a copy to Israel, by the way. They've been a good partner. Again, I think they could do better with respect to Hezbollah. I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when 2 drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut.
Yeah, you should have said that back when they did Gaza, you fucking soulless motherfucker, right? Like, that's, I mean, they've always overreact. Now you're finally saying it. Now you're getting it. Now that they won't fucking, they're interfering with you getting out of this debacle that they forced you to get into. And now you're realizing it. What a fucking piece of shit.
Could behave better. And frankly, they could do a better job. I love them as a partner. They were terrific. But they could do a much better job with Hezbollah. On that, I don't think they're doing well. And I feel very bad for Lebanon. Lebanon's been, it was a great culture. They had the professors, the doctors, the lawyers. It was an incredible culture, maybe the highest in the Middle East for years and years, centuries. And for the last 50, 60 years, they have been just trashed. They have been living in hell. So they'll work closely with us to turn over the so-called enriched.
All right, so he goes through this again. I mean, I could show you this whole thing because he's spiraling, he's fucked up in this thing, But like I said, I'm sure there'll be more to see in this video and videos to come. And this thing's going to unravel. I mean, it's just like it's a shit show. All right, let me go to the comment. Okay, so this might be the stupidest fucking thing that Trump said. I think I'm going to put this after my voiceover. I had to remake my video. Oh, it doesn't matter. So I have to, start organizing this video. But this popped up in Twitter.
Administration accountable for the strike on a school that killed more than 100 children on the first day of the war?
No, if it was a fault, and as you know, that's under investigation. It's such a strange question to be asked at this state because you're talking about a long time ago, but nobody.
Look at this guy shaking his head behind here. Look at this. This is Howard Lutnick, that fucking piece of shit. I think that's who that is. I don't know. And look at Tim touching his face. It's such a strange question, when you kill, I don't know how many hundreds of fucking little kids, and like you get so long. It's like 6 weeks ago. I mean, why would you, like, the statute of limitations is all, like, it's like
Administration accountable for the strike on a school that killed more than 100 children on the first day of the war?
No, if it was a fault, and as you know, that's under investigation. It's such a strange question to be asked at this state because you're talking about a long time ago, but nobody did that on purpose.
Nobody did that on purpose. There shouldn't be anybody, when you just kill 100 kids, it's an accident. Like Jeffrey Epstein or people like that. When you do shit like that, I mean, it's just an accident. Like, why are you asking such horrible questions? It's been like 6 weeks. What the fuck are you doing, bro?
I guess you'd have to say about them, what about the thousands of soldiers that they blew up when they opened their car door? What about the thousands of people that were killed by Iran? No, mistakes are made. War is nasty. But I know it's under investigation, and I could have a report for you tomorrow. Or I would ask Pete Hegseth that question because.
Okay, maybe you should have just said that. Fucking, instead of minimizing the death of 100 children, that's a big deal in Iran, right? And just fuck.
They have it under investigation.
Yeah, they do. They're investigating the shit out of it, and I'm sure it'll lead to accountability because your administration's the best at holding itself accountable. Okay, so I got this comment. I've been getting a lot of comments where people are diagnosing me or putting out negative suggestions about my physical state. You know, I talk about my health for a variety of reasons. One, the number one reason would be, I mean, I talk about everything, but it's a significant thing going on in my life. So, and I talk about things here like that. And also other people are experiencing some of these things. And, you know, maybe the number one reason is, what if I just up and died, and, you know, people are not prepared for that. You know, people who take some value in this YouTube channel. So, you know, I'm preparing people like something like that might happen because I'm having health issues. You get older and you have to let people know, you know, I mean, you know, you're in a window where maybe, you know, I live to 90, maybe I live to 100. I don't think, you know, I mean, my family, my parents and grandparents lived in their 90s. My siblings are in their 70s. My brother just turned 80, I think. You know, so I could be around for quite some time. I don't know how long I can make videos. Like the last time I talked to my brother, he was repeating the same story 3 times in a conversation. So, you know, I don't know how I would do. I mean, in 10 years from now or whatever. So whatever it is. But just letting people know that the end is certainly on the horizon for me in terms of these videos and what I do here. And, you know, whatever it is. But, you know, when you do talk about things like this, people will sometimes try to troll you and use it against you in some way. You know, get in, you know, try to, I mean, just put out bad information for you, or, you know, sow the seeds of doubt. And, you know, I have gotten people who have suggested things that I've ended up using. Like somebody told me about the Valsalva technique, which was great. And I just happened to read the comment. You know, when I'm reading comments, I start reading the comments more thoroughly, and then when I get to the end, not as much, right? Because, you know, I've read millions of comments now on my channel, and I can't read them verbatim. You know, I'm dyslexic, but even if I wasn't, it's hard to do. And, you know, sometimes people write long comments making suggestions, and the suggestions could be something good, so there could be some value in there. But the way they construct the comment, they say some things that are off-putting or just, you know, make me not not read the whole thing. You know, this just whatever it is. And one of the things is, you know, you demonstrate that you're not really listening to what I'm saying. And you say things that I think are, you know, I mean, I'm not a good social person, but you don't want to provide negative suggestions and say things that a person will start thinking negative things about their own health. You know, you don't want to misdiagnose them, and you don't fucking just, or let me read this comment and you'll get a better idea of it, right? And this is the kind of comment I'm talking about. Paul, have you ever had a echocardiogram done? Your body shape reminds me a lot of Marfan syndrome patients, which can give you high stature. Stature? Which can give you high stature, hyperflexibility, heart valve problems, and sometimes even aortic aneurysms. Okay, so, you know, you have never really seen me. I don't show a lot of pictures, right? And I don't have Marfan syndrome. And I'm not hyperflexible, and I don't have any of those other things in terms of, you know, I had this blood work done. We're talking about family history and things like this. But, you know, like in what way do you know what my body type is? Your body shape reminds me of Marfan syndrome's patients. Well, you know, that is just not professional. Like, you're shitty at your job. You don't say things like that. You don't imply something without having any data. Like, you would have to do a series of tests. But I've already said over and over again, allopathic medicine doesn't work for me, for the most part. Like, sometimes it does, but overwhelmingly it doesn't. And it's hurt me over and over again. I went through my health history with all of these things, right? And this is an electromagnetic issue. Like, I definitely feel like it's raining today, and I just took a nap. I mean, it might have been the greatest nap in the history of the world, you know, going about what Trump said earlier. But, you know, I took a nice nap, and it was starting to rain. I was about to bring my dogs outside. And oftentimes, when it gets into the 2s and 3s, it's 3:46. I took a nap around 2:30. And, you know, I just did all these clips afterwards. And I feel very clear. My mind's working really well. I'm you know, fresh in my whatever. I was about to take the dogs out. It was just starting to rain. And my dog Buddy will not go out in the rain. even if it's a little bit, like whatever it is. He's barking now, so I don't know what the fuck's going on. Anyways, what I was about to say is that sometimes when the barometric pressure is happening, that's how I get my migraines, or now it's the heart thing. There's some kind of electromagnetic thing, and it affects my system, like, just it's some way. And now the heart thing has happened, but it was before, it was usually the migraines and other things, and some of these other stuff that happens in terms of my, glitching out in my body. People have different things. Like in terms of the acupuncture, I'm considered a liver type, and liver types have a certain, whatever the Chinese medicine way of looking at it. And then you have, the different types of medicines. But in terms of like the whispers of the brighter world, it's said over and over again, of course, allopathic medicine's for-profit medicine. It's conditioned on you being sick and being a forever patient. And they give you things to make you sicker. And so, I'm not recommending anything and telling people not to do it, because everyone's got to figure out their own path. But for me, that's what it is. And I saw it with my parents, and I saw that they were keeping my dad alive, and my dad was so scared of dying, and, it was just pathetic, and, just the whole thing. And so, you get to a point where your life is, you're no longer living, right? You're taking all these medications that are keeping you alive artificially, and they all have side effects, and you have to take more and more medications, and they keep you alive long enough to drain your family of all your resources, and then when you're broke, they allow you to die, and you should have died years ago, because you're no longer, nothing you're doing resembles a human life anymore, right? You can't do anything. You can't. I saw my dad, and he was terrified. He looked like a human fucking skeleton. And when I grew up, my dad was in his 40s and 50s. He always had a pot belly. He was overweight, and he loved to eat, and watch TV, and that was about it. Didn't have much of a life. And he couldn't do anything. Couldn't see anymore. He couldn't eat. He had irritable bowel syndrome, just like whatever. He had nothing. There was no reason to live. He lived a bad life. Wasn't somebody me and my siblings would go to for advice or to talk to. He was like a fucking man-child, old man, but like a child, immature, and scared shitless of dying. It was pathetic to look at, right? And the medical system was failing him by keeping him alive when, he was, just his life, he didn't have any kind of a life, right? He was just kept alive for 20 years after, he retired, and he just fell apart physically, and he was suffering mentally, and just, making my life miserable, the whole thing. And so, that's my understanding about the allopathic medical system, again, with the whispers of the brighter world. They talk about how that we don't understand our bodies, and, the relationship to spirituality and samskaras and all the other aspects, and how the bodies work. And eventually there'll be a more comprehensive medical system that will be, addressing this thing from a holistic, appropriate approach. And, so as far as like, until that happens, I develop my own way of dealing with it. And, and one of the things is not to have irrational negative thoughts and worry about shit, so when you say something like this to a person, when you have almost no information, have you ever had electrocardiogram done? Your body shape reminds me a lot of Marfan syndrome patients. Like, how do you know what my body looks like? Like, how the fuck do you know? What? And I don't have that, which can give you high stature. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Hyper flexibility, which I don't have. Like, I'm the opposite. Heart valve problems, and sometimes even aortic aneurysms. Now, why would you want me to worry about that? Like, why would you want me to? What if my wife read that comment, right? Like, why would you want to put that out when you have no information? Like, if you're a real medical person, and maybe you're a troll and you're just trying to, torture me or whatever, make me feel bad or make me worry about stuff, but I just don't do that. And the reason I don't get allopathic medical tests, because they'll tell you things that aren't true to get you fear-based and take their medications, and then you're on this pathway. Like, I just don't trust it. And so, if there's some reason that, I've gone to, sometimes you run across a allopathic medical person who's a healer. There are a lot of nurses who are more to that case, right? But, and this isn't the only comment I've gotten like that, And so when my daughter committed suicide, I didn't know whether I would talk about it or not, right? Two things that go along, where I should talk about it. But I knew that no matter what people said, and there were going to be people who have said some horrible things, blame me for a suicide and just been, shitty, because that's how the internet is. People who, hate me or because they've got butthurt because of something I said and decided to, say something that, I'm not saying anything personal to them, but they were going to say something, off the charts with, just based in their anger and hatred and their own butthurtness. But I realized that her dying, and not just her suicide, but everything that led up to it for the last 5 years. How miserable she was and how, just not, she wasn't depressed. She was aggressive and, just impulsive and just horrible person in lots of ways. Like just, she was, and to see her kid like that, where, you don't see your kid having a future. Like I didn't see her being able to have a job because she was just so oppositional to authority. And, I didn't see her being able to have a family or kids. And, I hope that she would turn it around. Like, people go through shit. I went through shit. I just hope that, she did the meditation for a while and it really helped her. But then she quit that. She was too restless to do the Saj Marga meditation. That helped me. I was a low functioning person before I did the Saj Marga meditation. I was hoping, that would help her. Her mom was suicidal and she got hospitalized twice for trying to kill herself. And so, my ex. And so mental illness ran in her family. And my family wasn't great either. My family had their share of issues. So there's, genetics and, we lived in a fucked up world where people are fucked up. And, my daughter was really messed up and she just, I couldn't see her getting better. And like, it's a horrible thing to see in your child, right? Like, it's just torture. Like you just, you wonder, it's worse than like if they had cancer or something where, that's really bad because, a child who's really, has a future and potential and they, they have cancer and they're not going to have a normal life. That's horrible to look at, but when, it's the opposite where, you're not sure how your kid could ever just mentally and emotionally be a good enough person and be able to live just a normal life, right? Like just, that's really hard to see. And, nobody could say anything worse than going through that. No internet commenter, nobody, it means nothing. Like you could say the worst possible thing to me. It's nowhere nearly as bad as, watching my family, not just my daughter, but my whole family, turn out like so much worse than I could have ever imagined. Like it's just so bad, right? The whole thing, like I could have never imagined. It was like watching a horror movie unfold. When you see the horror movie and there's like, you see potential in future. And my kids were young and they were, they're funny and they are idiosyncratic and they were, they're just kids and good little kids and they were playing, they have their things and tantrums and shit. But then they start developing into their teenage years and, in a way when they start becoming who they are going to be as an adult and you're like, holy shit, this is not at all what I had hoped for, right? I don't want to say I was disappointed because they all had their path and their lives, but certainly it ended up being a nightmare. And then, of course, my ex going crazy and me having to hide knives because every time we argued, she'd pull out a knife and threaten to slit her wrists and punch herself in the legs and slap herself in the face and say, this is what your words are doing to me. When she was the one starting the fights, I was just like basically checking out. Like I wouldn't even react. I just went into like almost like a catatonic state just to, get away from the crazy. Like it was so bad. Like, so living through that, nobody can say anything that was as bad as that, right? Nobody who says some stupid comment, like it just doesn't, and the comments almost mean nothing to me anymore, right? But when you put things out there like that, and the other thing was COVID, I didn't want to talk about having COVID because at the time, it was like you were a leper. Everyone was scared of you if you had COVID. And again, I'm not going to interact with anybody watching my videos, but I didn't really want to talk about having COVID. But my wife and when I had learned a bunch of things, and my wife was saying, we know so much more than people, the things that we've done, we should put out there that we did to deal with COVID. Because we had COVID in March of 2020, like when it was just coming out. We were one of the first batch of people who got it. And, I talked about it. Then I had all these people saying I didn't have it. I was making it up. I was a shill, like all these fucking people. And I'm like, oh my God, this is, you think I would fucking say that? Like, why would I say that? But they were just shitty, stupid, fucking moronic people, right? I mean, not that that bothered me. It bothered me how bad they sucked, right? Not that they accused me of something. Like, I don't give a fuck, but just whenever you share something, people will set in on you because that's what they do, or they'll put out stupid shit like this, right? Like, that's not helpful. When you're talking to somebody, you don't diagnose them. If you have a suggestion, if you have something that might be helpful, if you have something that could be, beneficial, but you don't know. Like, you're not capable of diagnosing me because of my description. I mean, if you were, that'd be great, but most of these people aren't. And I get recommendations of remedies and things by arrogant people who think they know, and I know they don't know, just based on what they're saying in their comment, right? I mean, great if somebody could tell me exactly what I need to do, but putting out suggestions about negative things and telling me to go get a test in some, if I go into an allopathic medical facility and I say to them, some professional douchebag just told me I might be at risk for an aortic aneurysm, and I'm pretty sure they would say, hey, yeah, you do have one, right? I mean, maybe I get lucky and have somebody who has ethics and, whatever it is. But if you go in there asking them for if you give them certain information, they're going to diagnose you with something, and then you're going to be put on all this shit, and before you know it, your health is wrecked and you're completely fucked over by the system. I mean, that's how I see it, and for other people, it might not be that way, but it certainly has been my experience. So, like, this is just, you don't put negative suggestions out there. You don't get people thinking about things. I mean, I've had all these different diagnoses, people saying, oh, I had this, and you must have the same thing, or I knew someone who had this, or it sounds like this, and I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Like, if you have something that might be helpful, but, like I keep on saying over and over again, I believe this has a lot to do with Wi-Fi and with electromagnetic stuff and less to do with my heart. And, my heart works fine most of the time. And then there's the glitch outs. And, it's been getting better over the time. Like, I feel like I haven't had even an irregular heartbeat in days. And that was a post-COVID thing, right? So, I mean, if I'm going to die of it, I'm going to die of it, and there's nothing I could do about it. But I'm certainly not going the route of this allopathic medicine and this, paranoia and fear-based system that they use fear to, extract as much resources out of you as possible, right? I'm saying this as a person who's listened to millions of comments, and maybe some of the people are trolling, and they want to make me psychologically suffer. Like you have, there's that one of those great comments I got initially, and it was when I was originally this channel was about me and my family homesteading, and I started to cover more truther stuff, and some person wrote this amazing comment. I wish I had saved it. I have a bunch of comments from that time. There was one where a person says they were mad at me about something, and they said, I hope you get cancer and AIDS. Right? Like, that was a great comment. And I have a folder full of those comments, the early comments. I should read some of those at some point just to go through them. They were funny. To me, they were funny. But this person said, I really enjoyed watching your videos in the beginning, watching your family homestead, and you were such an inspiration. And now I enjoy watching your mental breakdown as you go through this, phase of, because I was becoming a truther. As you go through this paranoid phase and your mental deterioration. And the only thing is, I really worry about how it might affect your kids. And it was such a dickish comment on every level. Like, I really enjoyed you when you're just talking about things that I like to hear about, but now you don't agree with me and you're truthers things that have all turned out to be correct. I really enjoy watching you mentally break down, which is a fucked up thing to say, like almost a mocking. Again, trying to, psychologically affect me negatively. And I thought it was hilarious, right? I thought it was such a dickish fucking evil comment. And of course I've gotten lots of those that was the first one I received. So it's, it's more memorable, like that kind of comment. And then go, but I only worry about your children, that's concerned troll bullshit. And so I've been through this with people and I see how bad they are. Sometimes they just want to, fuck with you or whatever it is. Like this person who just commented, I don't recognize their name. maybe they haven't commented for a while. But I don't think this is a regular commenter. And so, sometimes people just want to, mess with you and get you worried about shit or whatever it is, or to get you, try to get in your head, and it just doesn't fucking work because, I don't worry. Like, I don't dwell on shit like that. I just don't obsess of things, I mean, it's a bad way to be. And, if I have an issue, I try to resolve it, then I just fucking live with it. It's like, well, do I need to deal with this or not? Or do you need to, when they're going to remove my tooth, and I still don't know if my tooth was infected or is infected, but it seems like it isn't now. I mean, it's been a while, and it's, once in a while there's some kind of issue with it, but for the most part, it feels, pretty good. But, like, it's just, you can be paranoid and worried about shit all the time, and it's just, it kills your life. It just, you could be in a time where you could be happy. There's times where you're not going to be happy, right? And, if you foresee problems, then you prepare for the problem, you prepare for the inevitability of a situation. But you don't need to be worried about things that are never going to happen. People who are worried about germs and they're walking around wearing masks and, rubber gloves, and, people who get obsessed with, the bubble boy or whatever. You can't live like that. It's just not a life. You have whatever you have, and then you're going to, whatever some people have it's like you're buying a car and they have planned obsolescence. You have these, Hondas that, they have this timing chain and it just goes after 80,000 miles. Like, they have these things that they know that thing's only going to last so many miles, right? And maybe I got a 90-year-old heart, or maybe I got a 70-year-old heart or a 60-year-old heart, right? And that's all it's good for, right? That's just, that's what you have. And I mean, you can do something about it, but I'm not going to have a fucking baboon's heart put in me or a pacemaker or something like this. That's not, I mean, it's whatever it is. Like, it's not, your heart stopping isn't the worst way to die. If you just go into cardiac arrest with no pain and suffering and years of cancer treatment and chemo only to wither away and die after 4 years of just horrific, soul-killing, body-killing fucking medical treatments. And so, we all have to make our choices, and I don't recommend my choices for other people. But for me, that's, what I find is best, that I avoid. I mean, it was an alternative medical person that gave me that stupid percussion thing that started my whole heart from, and people are you don't believe that happened? Like, you think I'm making that up, right? Like, I was sure that thing was, like, negatively affected me. And then, I went through the whole process with the regular heartbeat, which is, seems to be under control now, which hopefully. But like I said, I've gotten things that have helped me. People sent me the thing where I'm doing the tongue stretch, which reduces cortisol, and I'm doing some other things along with that, which has been helping me in general, not just in terms of my heart. And then the Valsalva technique seems to be helping. Whenever my heart has a regular heartbeat, I do that. It seems to relieve the pressure, and it seems to reset everything. So, like, that's been great. And, viewers have sent me that. So I don't want to discourage people from sending me things. But, you got to do it in a way that's going to be effective. You have to, read your comment back to yourself and say, well, it makes sense to me, but is it going to make sense to him, right? If you really want to be helpful, then be fucking helpful, right? Just don't try to fucking diagnose me with limited information and throw out weird fucking, catastrophic possibilities. And think that you're some kind of a healer and a helper, right? You're just being a fucking moron, or worse, that's just like evil. Like, it's just evil to make things. I'm already struggling, and you want to fucking, you want me to worry about that? Like, what the? Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to the other stuff here. Donald Trump is amazing. My truck used to hold $60 of gas, and now it holds $120 of gas. I don't know how he does it, but that man's a genius. That's a wonderful meme. Okay, so you've been lured. Soon there will be a massive Islamic terror attack in America, and the perpetrators will likely have financial ties to podcasters and those who are sowing discord for foreign nations in America. It means that podcasters are criticizing Israel. I predict there will be many casualties, and only then will it may be set in that people have been conned to supporting a terrorist psyop to distract you from the threat of Islam, while the enemy plotted to destroy our country from within with botted conspiracy theorists. it'll likely be 10 times worse than 9/11. Okay, Laura. Is that coming straight from the horse's mouth in Israel? Renames it the Department of War. Fights one war, loses. Memes are coming fast and furious today. Okay, Thursday, June 18th, 2026. They're really going in on the affecting lake. And, Trump the clown thing is happening quite a bit. You know, Trump seems to be going through a breakup with Israel, which is making people happy. I just saw a video of Tucker Carlson saying Trump smacked Netanyahu around with the whole deal. I'm not going to show you that because it's just silly. After all the stuff that Trump did for Israel. Is Israel's bitch. So we'll see how that plays out. Then there's this. It's the Dan Bongino show.
The closer you get to God, the harder the devil works on you. Well, the devil's working overtime now.
Okay, so what makes you think you're closer to God? That's the silliest fucking thing ever. Right? The truth in that saying, which Christians will never figure out, because they're not connecting with God unless you're some sort of saint that goes beyond your bullshit religion and your bullshit religious teachings, is that when you start moving closer to God, your ego gets scared. Like your ego, it's just like when you're going to die, your ego knows it's the end. The person that you are in this life is coming to an end, right? Your configuration of the things that you have, your genetic makeup, blended with your past, impressions, your samskaras, and your tendencies, and your thoughts, and you have like a psyche, like a configuration of an ego, and that ego is done. It's not going to be the same in the future life, and it's not going to be the same after you die. It largely disappears until you come back into a body. And so your ego knows that it's the end, right? Like there is a death of something. Like people think, all right, well, I have an eternal soul. But you're not going to be the same person. You're not going to be, you might be completely different. You might not even be on planet Earth. So, you don't know where you're going to go. So your ego, which is always got selfish interest as a possibility, right? As a possible becoming a demon outcome. And so as you get closer to death, or you get as you go closer to like losing yourself and embracing your soul, and people start to see you, right? They start to see you as a whatever it might be, someone who's got divinity within you, and people start gravitating to you because it's like you become like a sun, like a star, like a legitimate one, a light giver, a love giver, right? Where people feel good when they're around you. Like they want to be around you. They want to hang out with you. They want to spend time with you, and they benefit from that. And so as people start to become more spiritual and they get closer to God, then, they become a celebrity of some sorts or whatever, which you can see has happened in the past. And you get people who are, almost like worshipers of you. They see you as God. And that's problematic to the ego. So that's, that's the only way that the devil is, because the devil is within you in that sense. Like you have an ego that's potentially selfish and potentially will go against God's will. Will totally do that at some level. Could go full, you can go full demon, but everyone, knows what they're supposed to do and goes against God inside them, and then goes against their soul's path. So everyone has a little bit of a, flirting with being a demon. So the higher you go, and also you now have power. You have divine power. And so with those two things, it's problematic for all the reasons you can think about. When you have divine power, then, that all is something that could be it can be used like it's like if you fertilize your garden, you also fertilize the weeds. But oftentimes weeds are a good thing, so that's not a great analogy, but it's when you fertilize everything. So when you're fertilizing the good stuff that you want, you also fertilize the stuff that you don't want. And so, it's when you have power, any tendencies, anything that's unclean, anything that's selfish of nature, and it's nature, any like past some scars you have from past lives that are, waiting to flower. Like if you have an addiction and then you get power, well, it'll empower the addiction, right? One of the sayings in the Sajmark system, when there's this divine transmission, Babaji used to always say, if you transmit to a thief, he'll become a perfect thief. You have to clean the thieving tendencies away from the person. That's why he developed the cleaning system. Because if you have tendencies to be a thief and you transmit to that person, those tendencies will emerge. And so, there's the truth in what, and these guys would never know any of that stuff and would never even accept it. Like they think the devil is some, you look at me over here, like I'm the devil, like this kind of thing, right? It's the devil, this kind of, and it's not like it's, everybody has these tendencies inside of them and they have to find a way to get rid of them. And they don't have a process. Like confession doesn't work, right? These, at least for most people. If you're a real spiritual person, everything works for you. If you're really sincere, but up to a certain extent. But the majority of people who rise up to high levels of spirituality, or even I take the first step and are on the first rung, we'll go from point 1 to point 2, they fall. They fall for the very reason that I'm explaining. And so, but anyways, let's go back.
The closer you get to God, the harder the devil works on you. Well, the devil's working overtime now. He's cashing in that OT check. Probably spreading the wealth around too. Folks, something else is going to happen. If this is the last show I do, or Erica, or anyone else, I just want it on the record that I was on the right side of this. And by the right side, I don't elevate myself or my character above you or anyone else. I just mean like the non-demon side.
The non-demon side. You were totally on the fucking demon side. Now, I don't know who Dan Bongino is. I want to find a longer excerpt of this. I don't know who this piece of shit is, right? Back when, when Erica Kirk, when Charlie, I didn't know who Erica Kirk was. I didn't know who Charlie Kirk is. Like, I don't think I could have, I heard the name Charlie Kirk. But I'm not a right-wing person. And I didn't follow this kind of stuff. Like they were not, they didn't reach my level of where I would cover somebody, right? So the stuff that was going on with Trump, of course I was covering Trump's fake assassination attempt. And I might have seen Charlie Kirk a couple times, but not enough to really know who he was. I seen this guy, like I saw him on like Fox News, but like not really talking. And he just looked like a thug, like, I grew up in Connecticut, in the Connecticut area. And, I'm part Italian. I'm a quarter Italian. And there was these certain kind of Italian, I worked in Italian restaurants. And there was average, normal Italian people, like people in my family. And then there was these guys we used to call Guidos, right? And it's kind of a derogatory slur towards Italians, but they were, I have a story, but I don't think it's good to tell. But anyways, they were, where they would wear like these, I don't know, it was almost like a leg of like a deer or something. You guys would familiar with this, a necklace, and they oftentimes would have like, Jersey Shore kind of, Jersey Shore people. And he looked like one of those guys, what we'd call a Guido, right? He talks like that, kind of tough, whatever. But, what I know of Dan Bongino now is the clips of his past life where he was really an Epstein person. And he was a podcaster, and he was upset about the Epstein stuff. And he was, flirting with right-wing truthers. And then he got a job at the FBI and seemed to be kind of conflicted with being a complete hypocrite from his past life as a podcaster. But, he always then started to be on the wrong side of everything. He was on the cover up stuff and whatever, Trump's a complete demon. They all are, all these people, because they're egos. This is ego driven stuff. And, Trump is doing God's work by taking the system down. So that's something. Like, you can't look at somebody else and figure out what their role is. Everyone has to figure that out for themselves. They're doing God's work because the system is going to be taken down, right? It has to be taken down. And so, like, we don't like it, and we don't like the people that do it, and they're going to get blamed for it. But, it's God's will. It's obviously God's will. So whatever. Like I said before, I made a video, and the title was, why would God want to save America or this system? They wouldn't. Like, there's any reasonable interpretation of God, you would say that, oh, this is going in a demonic direction, going against God's will. Our system, our country, and the whole global economy, and it has to be taken down. And damage is being done, right? The longer it goes, the more damage is being done, and people are going south. People are getting worse, which is always a big barometer. And so this guy has been completely sellout, and, like, I don't care. I don't care about any of these people. Like, the damage is, when the system has to come down, then none of this stuff means anything. It's when the system comes down, we'll all deal, whatever that means. And then, there'll be future generations that suffer the material fallout of the system, but will be free spiritually. Like, because it's hard for people to be spiritual when there's so much, grossness and ickiness and depravity that's sponsored by the system. Like, the system is so erratic, and the energy that the system exudes, and how demonic it makes everybody, and how egotistical the system is. It's hard to just connect to the divinity within you, right? And so people like this, whatever role they play or not, it doesn't matter. But, he's a piece of shit, right? And he's backing Erica Kirk, who is like, Erica Kirk is so obviously fake. And so that's the jumping off point. Anybody who refuses to call out how fake she is, and how weird she is, and how non-godly she is, and everything, like just all the things we know about Erica Kirk, when it's such an act, then, they have no credibility. Like, if you're a person out there who's having a podcast, and some of your podcast is devoted to being a truth teller, then, all these things, like Erica Kirk and the rest of them. There's certain things that are, okay, you're a piece of shit liar, right? You just, you like Erica Kirk? Yeah, then you have no credibility. Like, you're just, and TPUS gay, they're so fake. Just like the people who say Joe Biden was the best president ever. Come on. Right? Like, there's just people are saying Joe Biden he's really sharp. Remember they were coming out and talking about how he was like the sharpest guy in the room, and when they had meetings behind closed doors, I'm like, the guy's shitting himself, right? Like, he's clearly got dementia. Come on. Like, it's just, if you're not willing to tell the people the truth of something so obvious, then how fucking, credible are you? You got zero credibility. Okay, so I found the extended clip on Rumble. So let's listen to this piece of shit.
Require evidence that the deal you're about to make to invest in whatever it may be, a tech company, a mine, that the mine had actual gold, correct? You wouldn't just say, hey, man, the guy selling me the mine says it has gold, but he says it's a secret. After you sign, he'll tell you. And then he still never tells you. It is unbelievable.
It's so
I'll show you what I mean coming up. I got that. On a very serious note, I'm going to start today's show with this. Folks, I'd like to say something is going to happen, but something else is going to happen. Something has already happened. Scalise, Charlie Kirk, Kavanaugh, where the guy showed up at the house. Something has already happened. Something else is going to happen, whether it's to me or anyone else.
Okay, why would it happen to you? Anybody who's out there saying that they're such a truth teller that they're going to be assassinated. Right? I'm such a truth teller that I'm going to be assassinated. They're come after me. Why would they come after you? Why would they come after you? Why would they come after Erica Kirk? Because I think this is where we know he's going this direction. Why in the world would they come after you? So, whatever happened with Charlie Kirk, as a distraction, or, he pissed Israel off because he took so much money and he was turning on them, which is, okay, let's say that was the reason he was killed. Or maybe, was he really killed? I don't know. Remember, there's some speculation of being a hologram. I believe that they just, why would they not kill you? Why would they, the celebrity island of, Prince and Michael Jackson and Robin Williams and all these, these celebrities, no, they're really alive, right? Jeffrey Epstein, so maybe Jeffrey Epstein they would keep alive because he's, Mossad or whatever. But why would they? Other than, so they're not loyal people. They're not good people. But Charlie Kirk, there was a reason to kill him, right? It made sense, and it was a big thing. Dan Bongino gets killed, no one's going to give a shit. It's going to be nothing. He thinks his audience, he's not a truth teller. I mean, he's a piece of shit shill, so why would they kill him, right? It makes no sense.
I'm not being melodramatic about it. I don't want anyone to worry about, I'll be A-okay. My life has been great. It's not some pity party for good old Dan. Dan's life is wonderful. Spend your energy on someone else.
Yeah, but Dan is talking about, in the third person, Dan's talking about how he might be killed. And, that's not true. Why would anybody kill you? Makes no sense. Nobody gives a shit about you. This is, you're trying to make yourself pop here. You are being melodramatic. Because, you're saying something that isn't true. When I was asked, when I first started doing this, aren't you worried about them killing you? And I was also talking to people in India. I wanted to get a truth thing going when I was in India. A truther thing. And a few people said, oh, they will just kill you. And India's a very, you feel safer in India, I did, in India than you do in America. And I don't mean in terms of being killed or not. There's a softness and a maturity in India. And there's a lot of crime and chaos. They got all the same bullshit. But there's just, you see those Bollywood movies where it's fucking dancing around? They're very much heart people, soft people. They're more sensitive people. And they're more evolved in terms of, it's an ancient culture there. And it's fucked up now, and there's lots of degradation. But there's an ancient wisdom, and there's just a feeling of, when you're in America, people are way more aggressive. And I'm not talking about, physical aggression. People are just hostile. I mean, just the mean shit I say here, we're people are fucking ball busters, and, it's not it's a totally these other cultures are a lot older than American culture. Americans are very much like teenagers. It's a, eighth graders or whatever it is. There's an energy there, very highly emotional and very, trigger finger quick with the trigger finger, violent, and not just, violent in terms of expression, right? But I was, I used to say to people, well, they'll just take away your channel. They can just take it away. Or just do what they're doing now, where the algorithm just suffocates your channel, which I talked about. They can just do that. They don't have to kill you. And if, the way that I understand human beings right now, it's impossible to motivate them to do any real change. There's some people who are desperate. They just got a cancer diagnosis, or they're at their wit's end, or, suicidal desperation. Even if they're suicidal, oftentimes they won't. The answer is always there. The solution's always there within you. God gives you an option, gives you, a path to get out of your feelings of depression and shit. But people can't access that and figure it out. And they don't want to. You can't get people to change in the right direction. There's no movement. I know this more than anybody. It just, you're not a threat to the beast. The beast will consume itself and fail because it's doomed to failure. But not because there's some kind of movement to destroy the beast. This is whatever.
Don't worry about me. The only reason I'm even covering this beginning of the show is because when something else happens, I want to be sure you can look back on these episodes and go, Dan was right.
Yeah, of course you can say that. Okay, everybody, something else is going to happen. No, I'm saying it right now. I'm saying it. I'm fucking coming out and saying something else will happen. There'll be another thing that happens. And when it does happen, and I'm not here because it might happen to me for God's knows, I mean, like I might die someday. Well, fucking, I mean, it could be me. And when that thing happens, this thing that's going to happen in the future, when something actually does happen, a big thing, like you're like, hey, that was the thing Paul was talking about. It must be the next big thing that happens. I know it's going to happen, and you guys know I knew it was going to happen because I'm saying it right now. The thing is going to happen. Fucking the thing. It's a fucking thing. Yeah, a fucking thing over there. It's a fucking thing and the thing and the thing. Fucking thing. I got a fucking thing. You got a thing, and the thing is going to happen. Really?
He brought the evidence and the logic, and maybe we should have listened.
He brought the evidence and the logic, and we should have listened that this thing was going to happen.
I'll show you what I mean coming up. We got a lot of content today. We had a great guest. We're going to move him.
Oh, fuck. I thought he was going to go right into the Erica Kirk thing. Let me see if I can find that. I don't really. It's hard to find this shit on Rumble. Okay, so he shilled for some bullshit, and then you got around to it here.
Fox News report yesterday. You've seen all the hysteria from the chatterbox talking head class with the I have secret knowledge, I have a lot of information but no evidence crowd. Sadly, the victim of a lot of this is Erica Kirk and others as more threats materialize to her life. Now, I mean, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Why would they kill Erica Kirk? Like, the only people who'd kill Erica Kirk are the people who are, like, would be the same kind of people that would kill Charlie, like Israel. Somebody was like, she's doing fucking damage to our brand kind of thing. Because everybody else enjoys mocking her. Right? She's not a threat. She's destroyed TPUSK. She's a fucking clown show. She's a joke. Like, what are you talking about? You think something's going to happen to Erica Kirk? Yeah, everybody who's famous gets, people say, that they're threatening them in some way. They get hate. Like, this just hate, right? But that's not, nobody's going to kill Erica Kirk. Who benefits from Erica Kirk dying? Unless they have a way to manipulate some sort of stock or whatever. But, like she's a clown. Like she's an absolute disaster. Only the dumbest of the dumb fucks see her as a sincere person.
Her husband, Charlie, who we all knew. Guys, you put that, yeah, thank you. Report links anti-Christian extremism and assassination culture to alleged plot against Erica Kirk. Yeah, another one.
Oh, my God. Look at that fucking headline. Look at that. I mean, it's another headline. Remember I told you there's going to be a thing that happens. There's a thing that fucking happened, bro. It's a fucking thing. It's a fucking thing that's going to happen. And you're going to be like, Dan was right. There was a thing. He said there was a thing, and now there's a thing.
Friends.
Okay, friend.
Notice I didn't say folks here. I said friends.
Yeah, sometimes I say folks. Sometimes I say friends. When I'm talking about what's going to happen, it's fucking going to happen.
That for a reason. Because there are some people here who are not our friends.
I'm not your friend, Dan. You're a fucking friend. I don't fucking friend. You're a fucking friend.
You can watch like anyone else, but you're not our friend.
Come on, Dan. Fucking you're being stingy with your friendship to random fucking people that watch your fucking show.
Erica Kirk watched her husband assassinated.
From a hotel room when she was with the other guy, or wherever the fuck she was when it happened.
Murdered. In the coldest of blood.
The coldest of blood. That guy had fucking cold blood. He was a furry. You think he was with all that fur he was wearing, the fucking furry outfits that he put on, his blood would be pretty hot. But for he's in fucking Utah, where it's, pretty hot most of the time, especially when it was fucking September in Utah. Fucking 90 degrees outside. That guy's fucking cold-blooded.
On basically what we would consider live TV these days, the internet. Sane, sound, moral, ethical people would empathize and feel really horrible to have a young man like that, a real patriot and a hero.
Yeah, he was Charlie Shekels, bro. He took his money from Israel to talk fucking college kids out of what they saw was a fucking genocide. There can't be more of a piece of shit than that. He had blood on his hands. He was promoting this fucking nightmare of Israel, which we all know, Charlie Shekels. But, this guy's like such a clown show. I mean, he's not even close to anything resembling the truth.
And an unbelievably good friend to me, to have his life cut short for some senseless ideological crap.
You know, furry. A fucking furry got him. The furry-loving guy. He's a transgender furry.
Erica will never get over this, ever. You have to remember there are Thanksgivings and Christmas where there's always going to be an empty seat at that table. Woman's life or children's life have been just totally devastated. It'll never be the same.
Never be the same. That's fucking. I mean, she might as well give up her life.
Yet there are some people out there who I've run out of adjectives to describe it. I really have. Satanic, demonic, evil. I don't know.
I don't know which one. You pick the one. Anybody who criticizes Erica Kirk for fake bullshit. Well, look at this stuff. You are truth. The fucking ads they put here on Rumble. Anybody who fucking criticizes Erica Kirk is demonic. Like, this is what this motherfucker's saying. You know, you're demonic if you call bullshit on the fakest, fake reef, fake widow, fake bullshit. I mean, you can't even call it acting. You know, if it's acting, it's overacting. They said, oh yeah, just go ham it up. Be as insincere and unbelievable as possible. And here we got a woman here. Look, she's perfect for the role, right? Like, come on.
I'll never understand. Thankfully, I won't try to understand why serial killers are serial killers. You won't, because you're not a sociopath. No one goes, oh, I get it, because you'll never get why these demons do what they do.
It's these fucking demons. You know, Trump and Israel murdering children, but that's okay, Dan, right? You're okay with that, right? You're okay with that's not demonic?
But I saw this piece, Erica, yesterday was reading some mail into the show, and she broke down, and I just wanted you to see this. And if you watch something like...
Okay, so this is bizarre, because I covered this at the beginning of the video. Right. I'll fast forward it here. And then we'll just, I'm not going to cover this much more because it's obvious what this piece of shit is.
This, and you think that person should be assassinated or hurt or just we should attack her on her online video.
I know exactly why Erica's in tears,
Man.
Closer you get to God, the harder the devil works on you. Well, the devil's working overtime now. He's cashing in that OT check. Probably spreading the wealth around, too.
Yeah, he is. Fucking devil. He's going to do another thing, the devil. There's another thing coming out when he says, when that thing happens. When that thing happens, you guys, you got a fucking thing. Are we doing the thing? You got a fucking thing. Fucking thing, little fucking chilling, little lad over here, fucking thing. He's going to do a thing. And Erica Kirk's going to be involved because she's obviously so fucking close to God for fucking fake tears. Remember when I did the Fox News thing and she was in an interview and she stuffed the snot rag between the couch. And I was tracking the snot rag because she used to dab at the corner of her eyes, that fake crying she did. And then got to the point where, like, all right, Eric, you got to stop fake crying because it's not cool.
Folks, something else is going to happen. If this is the last show I do, or Erica or anyone else, I just want it on the record that I was on the right side of this.
Okay, so you're saying if Erica Kirk dies, you want it on the record that you said the thing might happen? The thing might happen. Might have an Erica Kirk thing, and I would be on the right side of that thing. Fucking thing. Thing happened. I would say, hey, I thought it's the thing. Erica Kirk, a thing was going to happen. Fucking thing. I want you guys to know that I was fucking on the right side of this thing.
And by the right side, I don't elevate myself or my character above you or anyone else. I just mean like the non-demon side. Folks, this stuff is dangerous.
It's fucking dangerous over here. Fucking dangerous, fucking dangerous, and fucking dangerous. Fucking dangerous, man. Like, you go out there, you fake cry, you think fucking thing. Next thing you know, you're in danger.
If you don't have a compass true north, and you will believe anything, then you will fall for anything. And as I said to you in the open, and I'll repeat again, there's a penalty in this for you and for everyone else. The penalty for you falling for anything in the secret knowledge and overwhelm info, underwhelm evidence trap, don't ever forget those two.
So if you're a truther, if you don't believe the official story the penalty's coming. What's the penalty, Dan? Tell us what the fucking penalty is.
Things. It is the mark of a charlatan every single time. Secret knowledge they never give you, ever. I've got this stuff, but I'm not going to show you. And then here's some information, but the information is never actually evidence. A bank was robbed in Martin County. Justin lives in Martin County. That information is accurate. Banks have been robbed in Martin County, and Justin lives here. Justin never robbed a bank. That's not evidence of anything. It's just information.
He's talking about Candace Owens.
That is the mark of a charlatan.
Charlatan's over here. It's like a guy. Like, let's say a guy comes out and says, release the Epstein files. Fucking want here, Epstein, this, that, and the other thing, Epstein. And then he comes out, it's a fucking Epstein. Let's release the files. You got fucking files and fucking files. And then he gets to work for a president who's obviously a fucking grifter, and he was Epstein's best friend. He's like, the fucking files here. What fucking files? What the fucking files? Oh, no. What the fucking files? Just fucking files. All right, so he's a fucking ass clown, right? I mean, just, we can all see, anybody with half a fucking awake mind can see Erica Kirk's a fucking joke, right? I mean, you have to be able to see it. And, and if you don't see it, fuck, who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't matter. People seeing it or not isn't going to change anything. But how can you not see Erica Kirk as a absolute fucking disaster? Nothing sincere. And, Candace Owens is also, what he says, somebody who is manipulating her audience because she's a lying piece of shit, as is Tucker and all these people. They're all celebrity grifters who have somehow clicked into what we created as a truth community that now is, these fucking pieces of shit. So like, it's a thing. When thing happens, the same fucking thing. All right, so there's this guy. Okay. So I looked at Dan Bongino's page here on Rumble. And that video that I just showed you got 600,000 views. 2 days ago, 800,000, what? Yeah. 800,000, 600,000. And this one, a couple days ago, Nepo Baby Tucker is lying, 1.3 million, 900,000, 900,000. So, from my brief experience on Rumble, I don't think they exaggerated. At least they didn't do it for me, because I was getting, I don't know what it is, 100, 200 views per video. I mean, it wasn't worth it for me to post on Rumble. Everyone was like, why don't you go to Rumble? I'm like, because fucking, there's no views there. I mean, how's it, better than YouTube? It's just another thing. I mean, I have a backup channel, Apocalypse Now, that I like to make more content for. But I don't think they exaggerate their views, at least, maybe for this clown they do. But either way, well, let's see what the comments are here. So this is 600,000 views. And
your meter charges for every kilowatt that enters your home.
I don't know what the fuck that is. It says it's got 11,000 likes, 300 dislikes. I don't know how many comments. Where's the comments? It's got 624 comments. So, it's maybe a little bit low. And he could have a bot that's buying views. But either way, he still has a fucking audience, right? I mean, when you get 11,000 thumbs up, maybe that's a little bit low for 600,000. I don't really know on Rumble. I mean, that's, it's not heartfulness bullshit. I showed you heartfulness where they say they get 100,000 views and they get 11 comments, 18 comments, right? And so, he's got hundreds of thousands of views at the very least, and I don't know if he's on any other platform. It's far more than TPUSK. This guy has been fucking clowned, right? He has been absolutely fucking clowned because, he was a podcaster and then he bailed on the Epstein files. I mean, he was, flirting with it being a truther, as much as I know about him. I've seen the before and after clips on this guy. And, he's embarrassed himself, like the whole Trump thing. And yet he's getting hundreds of thousands of views. Like, where's that coming from? Now, I know he was on Fox News and shit, and, he's one of these celebrities, and he's still getting less than Tucker is getting. But Jesus Christ, right? How does this guy still have an audience? Like, what's the demographic of people? I mean, is it just pure Trumpers? Like, he's just, the pure dumb fuck MAGA? I mean, I don't know who could watch this guy. He's an ass clown. And, he should have lost a good percentage of his audience. And maybe he did. Maybe he used to get, let's go back to the views here. Let's go back, I don't know, some months ago. 4 months ago, he got, this is him. Well, this is the Mar-a-Lago attack. He was getting the same amount of views then, 1.1 million, around the same. I mean, so, this is before he was the FBI guy. Well, here he's getting 2 million. Well, so he was up in the millions. So he's lost some part of his audience. And he's just probably podcasting again. But he was up in the 2 billions. I don't know what his, comments and likes to dislike. See if this is. 21,000 likes and 163 dislikes. And then 4,000 comments. Right, so he, I mean, his audience has gone down. And I don't get it in the first place. So, it just shows you how how many dumb fucks are out there. I mean, that's the reality is, being a dumb fuck or making content for dumb fucks is a way to go. You have to pander to these dumb fucks. All right. So that's Dan Bongino. All right. So I'm saving this audio for my Journey series, and I want to add one thing to this. I'm editing. I can tell, I don't value popularity. You guys can probably see that. I don't value it as, sometimes there's a quality movie, a quality song, a quality, just something that's really good, and people gravitate to it, right? And then there's a lot of stupid shit out there too, just low bar, no abstract thought, having, just remedial, partisan, just something that can stir up people's lower nature, and people like it, like WWE and UFC and, sports maybe in general, and just a lot of things that bring out sort of the Cro-Magnon man and, Cro-Magnon woman, whatever it is, primal shit, stupid shit. There's stupid shit out there. And then there's things that everybody jumps on board, like some popular trendy thing that really sucks, but everyone just sort of cons themselves into believing that it's like that backpack kid, that weird dance he did, right? Everybody starts doing something really stupid. And it's like, why are you doing that? Well, everyone else is doing it. And so the majority of stuff that's popular is not good. You'll see so many great movies and TV shows that nobody knew about, and they're incredible. My wife and I watched this show called Audacity, an amazing show, high quality. And the first episode, I'm like, it looks like it's kind of, it's good, it's quality, but it's going to suck, It's going to be filled with liberal stuff, and it really has no political agenda. Everybody's horrible. It's about these Silicon Valley people. And it has truther stuff in it without being truther, but just a masterpiece. You see these things. And, I don't know how popular that show is, but it is, it's not going to be as popular as some of these shitty sitcoms and other things that are on network TV or whatever it might be, right? On, bigger apps, bigger networks, whatever. And, more and more I see the quality stuff is hidden from people, and people themselves don't want it. And the ultimate thing is people don't want God, right? The stuff I talk about, spirituality. Even for me, I can see the popularity of my videos. The dumber the stuff I put out there, the more views it gets. The more remedial the subject matter, the more mundane it is. I'm making fun of Britney Spears, some of the celebrity shit. I mean, that's how it used to be. I would make a celebrity video, and it would get so many more views than something to do with spirituality. And that's just a sad fact, because human beings tend to go down to the lowest common denominator. It's a plague on humanity. And so, I don't attribute popularity to stupidity, but that's why the Erica Kirk is such an anomaly. That's how bad she and her gay buddies there, the two twinks that hosted the show, are, because they can't even retain their audience, and they put out some of the stupidest content. I mean, even fucking Don Lemons has an audience, right? He's developed an internet audience, but these motherfuckers can't scratch two nickels together and make like something that anybody would watch, even though they have all the advantages of brand recognition and all the grief that people had from Charlie Kirk, and the people who really liked Charlie Kirk and wanted to see this carried on, and they just fucking didn't do it, right? They refused to make anything that would resemble anything even stupid motherfuckers could watch, right? And so that's where we are as a people. So other than this clip, I had a bunch of stuff that was up here. One of it was Kash Patel. There's some bullshit thing he did. And he's coming under fire. Luckily, Trump's fucking deal, luckily for him, Trump's deal, is taking sucking up all the oxygen. So he might, survive it, but he's a fucking disaster either way. This clip just came up, but I'm going to show you all these clips quickly because they're speaking to all the things. The other stuff's going to be before what I covered so far in this video. This is the only new thing here.
Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in the East. Well, Donald Trump has a seemingly limitless ability to lie to the American people. His latest and possibly most egregious lie is the attempt to spin his capitulation to Iran as some sort of personal victory.
All right, so he's going to show a bunch of clips here, but then she's going to gleefully talk about all the people turning on him.
Quote, the United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development.
Here.
As one headline from Fox News puts it, quote, Republicans, media rip Trump's secret Iran deal, with the harshest critics calling it a surrender. His former ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, reacting to Wall Street Journal reporting that the deal would allow Iran to immediately begin selling its oil, posted on social media this, quote, if this is true, Iran wins. There should be zero sanctions relief on day one. Trump's own former vice president, Mike Pence, remember him? He warned this last night. Watch.
So, pretty bluntly, it sounds like you think, from what we know so far, this is a mistake by the Trump administration.
Well, it's much bigger than a mistake. My concern is what appears to be leaking out, these immediate concessions, particularly...
Okay, so, and they're all gleefully reporting this, and Trump has basically indicated, which I talked about earlier in this video, it's going to be part of the title, that if he kept on going, there'd be a threat of depression and he'd be known as Herbert Hoover. That pretty much, Trump, and he's made things like he's manipulating the stock market, which I said all along. Every time he said there was a deal, the stock market would go up. And these guys probably made bank on all that shit. But in terms of long-term keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed, he knew, Trump, with all his obliviousness and all his crazy, all his, bravado, all his shit that he says, he knew he was fucked, right? I think knew he was fucked from the beginning. And, he did this thing for Israel, whatever it was, whatever the deal was, whatever they had over him, whatever, all these factors. But either way, he knew he was fucked, right? Everyone kind of knew he was fucked. When they had no answer for the Strait of Hormuz and the effects that was going to have globally and all the things it was going to eventually do to America. And so Iran held the leverage, which we all know. If they didn't hold the leverage, then there'd be no need to do a deal. And if it wasn't going to be depression and economic collapse, it was going to have to go to a ground war. He was going to have to do a ground war to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and even then, that might not work, and then it would be a definitive, if he put in troops and there was a, massive die-off American troops and they still kept the Strait of Hormuz closed, then everyone would know that Trump got his ass kicked. This was his only play. And anybody who's saying a ground war would have been a good thing, in terms of, only from the standpoint of it's divine providence that the system is destroyed. Which I believe, so only in that way, but not any materialistic way, right? Could you make a case for this being a good thing? And so,
sanctions waivers right out of the gate that would would essentially be a lifeline to the Iranian regime.
Okay, so what everyone acknowledges is that everything that happened with this war and whatever money that Trump made off of it, whatever way things were profitized by people in the private sector who were riding the ups and downs of the stock market, whatever, pumps and dumps kind of thing. It's not really pump and dump, but, he would say, hey, the deal's off and the stocks would go down, and they say the deal's on, they go up. You know when to buy and when to sell, right? That kind of thing. And whatever else has been done here and all the, lives that are lost and all the people that died, all the fucking munitions and American taxpayer dollars that went into this war, it's essentially Iran is better off now than they were before. They have to rebuild, so they have that kind of shit. But now they have, like everyone knows, they can close this strait whenever they want. And they don't want that, so they're basically being bribed to not do that. And, they didn't get any of the concessions because Iran already wasn't really actively making a nuclear weapon. And Israel looks like they are getting, who knows what they're going to do here to blow up the deal. But they're not going to be able to get their promised land. They can't do more land expansion, at least, outside of Israel and Palestine. And so, for the most part, this is like an embarrassment. And Trump doesn't like embarrassments, but like he knows this is the only deal he could get, right? And everybody knows that it's a failure. Like anyone half awake. But either way, so there's that. I'm going to talk about this. I'll do a voiceover at the end of this thing, which will be, I'll talk about how this is all about perception. Because whatever we see in the show is lies, but also whatever we see on planet Earth is an illusion. It's Maya. It's not a reflection of our true soul, our true nature. I'll expand on this in a voiceover at the end. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. I don't see why I wouldn't. And so in all that, I cover the official story partially like it's real because there's different levels and layers to all this kind of stuff, right? And so I don't even know if there is an Iran war, right? We don't know because we're not there, and they lie about everything. But in terms of the perception of this thing, America is a fucking mess to the rest of the world and to most Americans. Like we're fucking in free fall, right? And
so we want to pick up our conversation about Iran and Ed Luce with your latest piece for the Financial Times, which is titled, "This Time Trump and Netanyahu Have Really Fallen Out." And in it you write in part, quote, "Netanyahu sold Trump and his own public on the idea that after 47 years, Iran's theocrats were finally meeting their Waterloo. Rarely has a geopolitical roll of the dice gone so rapidly wrong. The Israeli leader thus faces an unpalatable choice. Either he submits to a deal that leaves Iran considerably stronger than it was before February 28th, or he breaks with the U.S. by trying to scupper the deal. The America First camp will be primed to praise whatever deal Trump strikes, even if it's less good than Obama's, which Netanyahu also did his best to scupper. From their point of view..."
Mika cracks up every time she has to say the word scupper.
"Trump's flirtation with Middle Eastern forever wars is over. He is back to the president they thought they knew. Netanyahu is often called Israel's Houdini. Even he, however, will find this vice hard to escape. Should he try to jeopardize the Iran talks, Trump's reaction could be worse than mouthing off to a reporter." And Ed, how bad could it get?
So part of this draft MOU is...
What's up with that? Ed, what's up with you?
Unconsulted with Israel, but part of it is that Israel withdraws from Lebanon. That is how the Iranians understand it. All
right, so we're going to see how this plays out. But, with the way Americans feel about Israel right now, and it's, that shit's over. I assume it is. They still control the media and they still have influence, but, whatever. We'll see how this all plays out. Okay, so Kash Patel. Let's hear. Let's do this.
Here's a sentence I never thought I'd say. The Secret Service is pissed off at the FBI. Specifically, 3 people familiar with the incident tell MS Now that Secret Service officials are mad that this morning, Trump's FBI Director Kash Patel prematurely announced the details of a sealed and ongoing criminal investigation into a plot to attack Sunday's UFC match at the White House. Now, the sources say that roughly 10 suspects had not yet been arrested and placed in custody when Patel made his announcement. The sources say that the Secret Service and the FBI had been partnered on the investigation and had planned to make a joint announcement about it later. But the sources say Patel jumped the gun. This morning, the deputy director of the Secret Service responded to a question about the FBI revealing their investigation. And while he never said Patel's name explicitly, just listen, it's kind of obvious who he was talking about.
I'll tell you a phrase I learned early in my career in the New York field office, and that's don't choke on your own smoke. Anyone that believes that case was worked in a bubble is naive. I'll tell you the Secret Service led that investigation from the beginning. I'll tell you that it's ongoing. In order to maintain the integrity of the investigation and the security plan, we chose not to leak it.
All right, so there's that. Kash Patel doing Kash Patel-like things. But, you know, this story is bare. This is from a couple of days ago. And now, you know, like Kash Patel should have been fired like 12 times. He's an absolute, you know, in a administration filled with ass clowns, Kash Patel is a standout. And yet, you know, he just keeps on getting lucky by the timing of his fucking failures. Okay, so there's a lot of posts on Twitter about the green algae pool. You know, the reflecting pool.
There is a great spiritual proverb. I'm sure you've heard some version of it. What is done in darkness will always be brought to light, as in the truth always wins out, which it does. It just usually takes a little longer than a few days, but not for Donald Trump's newly renovated reflecting pool, finished just over a week ago. What was briefly a chlorine blue swimming pool, American flag blue, as Trump put it, is now, quote, puke green.
All right, so the problem with this, too, I don't think they have a filtration system, right? Because it's, you know, and I don't know. It's like if you have a pool, you know, you have to circulate the water. Water has to move or it goes, this is what happens. You can dump a shit ton of chemicals, but the chemicals have to be filtered. Like you have, you know, people have this with their pools, right? You have some kind of pump and some way of keeping the water moving, you know, going through some kind of filtration system along with, you know, chlorine, you know, chlorine, whatever it is, which form of bleach and all that shit. And this is a massive body of water just sitting there in the fucking hot summer sun. I don't know how they kept it clean before, and I don't give a shit. But it's just, you know, it's a metaphor for everything else. All right, so let me wrap this video up. Okay, so from when all these Israeli shills, these Zionist shills, mostly Republicans, started criticizing Trump, Trump was upset about it, and at 4:30 in the morning, he posted, "These fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran when the stock market just hit a record high and the oil prices are tumbling down are either jealous, bad people, or stupid. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump." So he's saying that this war with Iran is, I mean, he always mentions the stock market, right? Now, of course, the stock market is up because the war is over and, you know, all that shit. And oil prices are tumbling down because of what? The Strait of Hormuz being open? That has nothing to do with Iran. Like now they're economically going to be much better off and they're in a much more powerful position. So, like, but he's saying the war was about the stock market? I mean, you know, the guy just clueless and not afraid to just contradict himself and make himself look stupid to everybody but his dumb fuck followers. All right, so there's that. Let's get into the voiceover here. Okay, 2 quick things to get to. This video's gone on for it's a little bit long. So I want to address the thing with, well, you know, I'll come back to that in a second. So Trump, you know, he always brings up the stock market. Like, whenever he's evaluating his performance, it's how it affects the stock market. And, you know, it's like, it's a fucked up thing, right? You know, most people don't give a shit about stock market. How many of you guys have any real significant stocks? I mean, you know, how many people who are just average people, the stock market really affects in some way. People have, maybe some small holdings here or there, more as a goof or whatever. Maybe something in terms of you have a retirement fund or a pension that's tied to stock market. But in reality, most people don't look at the stock market, don't understand it, and they just don't have the money for it. And it's only Trump and his elitist buddies that really that matters to. And Trump always brings up the stock market. You're going to release the Epstein files? Why are you bringing that up? Look how good the stock market is. Why are you bringing up that Trump's a pedophile when the stock market is so fucking great? Why do you guys care that Trump had a history with being besties with a pedophile and he was one himself? Why do you guys want to investigate that when the stock market is doing so fucking good? And so many other times it's been brought up. Why are you guys worried about the Iran war? The stock market's so good. Hey, Mr. President, remember when you guys bombed those Iranian children? Wait, why do you guys want to bring that up when the stock market? So fucking, that's his weird thing. Okay, so what I was talking about earlier in the video, and it's 100% slipped my mind. I don't want to go back and review it. I'm not even sure what part of the video it's in. Oh, what I was going to talk about is perception. Because, a big part of what, if you wanted to consider this warfare or competition or whatever, is people create reality here on planet Earth, like on a soul basis, and an ego, your ego creating, using the power of your soul in connection to divinity within you to manifest your own particular universe, right? Like you can see people, how they interpret things. You can go to a movie with somebody and they can describe the movie and you can describe the movie and it's completely different. Like your reality and their reality is like, miles apart. You can have situations. I mean, when I was realizing that there was no chance for my family, when my ex's version of events, her remembering of events that happened, was so distorted. I've always had a good memory. And, it was distorted in her need to always be like, in a Trump-esque way, like in an Erica Kirk way, the way that her personality was configured, that she was always the victim in some ways, and she was always the best one, and people were hating on her for no reason, even though she provoked the shit out of everybody, taking no accountability for the way that people reacted to her weirdness, the way that she was as a person, and that she would construct her reality based in that. And I could see there was just basic rules, like you were either a hero or a villain if you were a significant person in her life. Some of the kids were heroes, some of the kids were villains, like her own children, like her husbands or ex-husbands. They were at one point a hero, and then another point they become a villain. And then she warps her whole reality, changes everything, all the narratives of the past. When you were a hero, like you get cast as a villain in her memories, like this kind of weird rules. And there were specific things that she was always going to do, and I could basically predict how she would react to shit, based in this fucked up, my experience with her fucked up, distorted reality. But when you start seeing events completely different than other people, like one of you's fucked up or both of you are fucked up, right? And so there's no chance of that. Like, you should have when an event happens, your memories of it should be fairly similar. And in her case, she would have told the story one way, back when I was, cast as a hero in her internal world. And then years later would tell the story a completely different way where I would be the villain. Because that's, it was just the way that she reconfigured everything. It was like there was some kind of app. And you say, all right, now rearrange all these memories and your interpretation of the memories to fit your new reality. And the thing about it is, and I've talked about this idea of witnessing, that we are witnessing things, and then, your connection to God, how connected you are to God, and you're bringing that information back to the source so that contingencies and things can be kicked into place. Beings that are higher developed souls that are monitoring the earth, they have a difficulty, they can kind of see what's going on and they have an overall view of things, but from a spiritual place. And it's a lot different when you're in a physical body. That's why higher developed souls have to come down here. They just can't orchestrate things from a spiritual position. They have to come down and incarnate, and there's a whole thing with that, right? But in the Sanskrit word of Maya, planet Earth and your human experience is Maya, like a simulation, a video game. Maya means illusion. Because you really are a soul trapped in a three-dimensional body. And everything that you experience is in some way illusionary. It seems so real, but it's like if you were trapped in a video game, that would seem real. But your true essence is your soul, your eternal soul. You have a temporary human body, a temporary human ego. But one of the things that the controllers do, and I talked about this a lot in my book, The Choice, is they repeat the same lies over and over again, the people who are running the system. And that gives the lie more staying power. If everybody's saying the lies and thinking the lies and repeating the lies, you get all human beings to do that, then you can, hold these lies in place because God is trying to, God is not trying to, the divine system is working to purifying all the bullshit and, getting rid of lies and exposing lies. And eventually the truth comes out because it has to, right? But the truth is, for most people, beyond their reach and their ability to perceive it because of their limitations, right? So, oftentimes I talk about these things because it doesn't matter whether it's real or fake. It doesn't matter if it's acted or it's AI generated or it's an organic event. None of these things really matter. It matters what everybody believes. Because the more that they can get people to believe things, the more that they can hold those illusionary realities in place, right? And so that's a big part of what's going on here is that, these dumb fucks who still believe in Trump, there's some, element of doubt for everybody who sees Trump as being a complete piece of shit. There's this group of people, 20% of Americans, that think Trump's the second coming of Christ or, something along those lines. And even though they're batshit crazy and people see him as batshit crazy, the fact that 20% believe that, it creates doubt in everybody else. And, it's a part of the narrative, right? Because, like I said, I don't believe in popularity and these other things. But, having a lot of people watch things and repeat the things and see things, everybody has this ability to manifest coming from a divine place and manifesting, your internal world as well as what's going on in your external world is a big part of why the thing's so fucked up, right? Because it just can't be wiped out. Like you'd have to wipe out large segments of the population and send the people into a state of shock where they can't even think about the illusion anymore. It's like you have to be slapped out of your whole stupor. Like humanity collectively has to be slapped in the fucking face to wake up from the slumber they are in this illusionary world that's been created by the people that control the system and the masses who have willingly marched along with it, right? I call this thing the show, but the show is important because the show is what everybody believes. Whether people are reacting to the show, to whatever that, means for them personally. They are, that's bottom line, ground level, ground zero of reality, baseline reality. That's, reality is built from this official story of the show and these narratives. And that's why some people just can't even go there and realize it's all bullshit, right? Because, their whole existence is built on a foundation of this bullshit lie, American dream lie and the historical lies and the lies about all this stuff. And they can't deal with the fact that it's all bullshit. They've been indoctrinated. They can't have a second, they can't have like a second waking up, like being born again as somewhat awoken person. They can't wake up at all because it's just too overwhelming for them. Okay, so I was talking about how my channel's dying a slow, painful death. I mean, it's really been since 2018. It's, it was ascending. It was growing and ascending, and I was making more money. And I think it topped off and, it reached its peak in 2020 maybe. It was an election year where I think I made the most money, but my views were down, so, whatever. But, I reached the 200,000 subscribers, and that was it. Like, then YouTube, put me in a category. They changed their algorithms. And now it's been, hemorrhaging subscribers on and off, losing a few, gaining a few, but always going down. Money going down significantly, view count going down, and all the rest of the things I was talking about. And so there was a number of people donated money, which was nice. I mean, as a sort of a stopgap, but there needs to be some other kind of solution too as well. And I'm going through the comments and someone went, create a Substack, bro, or a Ko-fi a coffee channel with a K, or even Twitch, we will come watch. Yeah, but like, I don't even know how you monetize that. And, you know, I'm not going to get as many views as YouTube. I mean, people just don't understand what the fuck I'm talking about. And I shouldn't have hearted that comment. You know, it's just stupid shit. Like, you know, that everyone thinks they have a solution. But my solution is I need to monetize my content. I don't want to exclude people, and I have to be on the platform that the people who most are likely to gravitate towards spirituality. These platforms for younger people, I mean, some young people come to my channel, and they're, you know, maybe mature for their age. They're spiritually evolved in some way. But the majority of my people that are here, I think, are in their, you know, they're 30 or older, 40 or older. I don't even know. Like, I don't know what they have a demographic breakdown. I don't know if there's a. I don't think that YouTube has access to people's ages. But either way, you know, the older folks, they like the more traditional apps and don't know about these other apps, and I certainly don't. And, you know, that's not going to solve my problem going to another fucking, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't have no idea what these apps are about, but I have to start from scratch there. You know, I started putting my stuff up, like, on, like, basically make them into podcasts and put them up on, whatever that podcast thing is, Spotify. And, you know, there's just nothing there. I get 100 views, 200 views, mostly people who view the stuff here. I used to post it on Facebook. I mean, just, you know, whatever. You know, like, people come up with these, like, remedials, you know, why don't you just go do this or go do that? And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what that entails. Like, so thanks for the fucking random idea that I have to research and figure out and find out the platform sucks for me. Right? Like, you know, changing platforms isn't going to, and I just don't want to do that. Like, that's the whole level of relearning everything and redoing everything and for nothing, right? I mean, I've done it before. I've added platforms and they always end up sucking in one way or another and aren't as good as YouTube. So here's a comment. So yeah, you know, they have this, you know, sophisticated analytics program that I look through, but, you know, I mean, it's kind of cool, and I don't know how to, I'm not a business person. I kind of understand statistics and things like that. Anyway, I started watching you way back in 2016, 17. I believe I remember that you were all over YouTube back then. Sometime a few years after that, your channel completely disappeared. Yeah, that tracks. And I thought you went off the air here. I remember that I got involved in other topics and other controversies and completely forgot about your channel until I saw it 4 months ago. You know, YouTube did something where they started to recommend this to other people. You know, people who used to be subscribers or things like that. I was really thrilled. I wonder if the same thing happened to a lot of people, though, who used to watch you. It could not have been just myself. The lost regular video feeds promoting your channel. Hyped. Much love. See, this was, and I can't remember, maybe you guys do. Like, I started talking about this, and I don't know what I did. But I did something, you know, a couple times I went and I complained to some bot, and, you know, I had it out with them and all this shit. And I don't know, that was like maybe a year ago. But then 4 months ago, my videos were, I was just dead in the water. And something happened with YouTube, and I forget what it was, and I don't, you know. I think some of it had to do with the Iran war, and maybe something before that. And there was an upsurge. Maybe it was this thing to do with the hyping, too. I think there's been 3 or 4 times this has happened, where all of a sudden a bunch of people who used to watch me found me again. And they were like, oh, I thought you were dead. You know, or at least your channel was. But, you know, like I just don't have any control or knowledge of that, and I don't know what to do or not. I just like to focus on making content. And then somebody asked, and I kind of said this already, but they asked it again anyway. Do you think YouTube tries to secretly ruin channels they don't like by flooding their videos with ads? Sneaky tactic, if so, blessings, Paul. Yeah, you know, people were complaining because they would put these long-ass ads, but they were skippable, but they would put so many ads in my videos, and they were shitty ads that wouldn't bring in revenue, and people wouldn't watch them anyway, so I wouldn't get any money for them. And so, you know, and they would interrupt the flow of the video. So now I've learned to put my own ads in, and once in a while I forget to do that. So if you see a lot of ads, it's because I forgot. And also if the ads like interrupt things, which is another thing. You know, if you don't, so all of a sudden it interrupts something. But you know, that if it interrupts me in the middle of a sentence, not just my thoughts. But if that happens, that means that I forgot to put the ads in, and there's going to be way more ads. But it's everything with YouTube sucks that way. Like, and they've lost control. And I talked about this when I tried to run ads, and they've lost control of their own algorithms, and they're totally dependent on machine learning. And so, even if they wanted to be good or they wanted to do things better, that wouldn't be the case. Like they can't. They just because they can't. They don't control it. I was trying to run ads, and I was talking to a human, and I said, I want to run ads on just these channels, and the person said, well, you can suggest the channels, but it would have to come around to you because I wanted to run ads on specific channels that I asked my viewers, what do you think are good channels to run my ads on, and they listed all these channels, and the person said I could do that, but they didn't take the information. I'm like, I'm paying you to run fucking ads. I'll run the ads on these fucking channels. I don't need machine learning to tell me what I already know, right? What I already want. I don't want the machine learning up to that point. The channels that it was recommending my ads for, the channels were so bad and so unlike my channel that nobody from those channels who watch those shitty videos, weird videos, some of them foreign videos, would ever possibly understand my channel or would want to be viewers. So it was just a waste of time and money. But they can't do anything about it because they're completely dependent on algorithms. And that was even before AI, which now controls all that shit. It seemed like when AI kicked in, my channel seemed to get a little bit slightly better rating for a bit, but now it seems to have gone downhill again, where they're, trying to kill it. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Baramano. Definitely reporting for the apocalypse and the ascension. I would have a blessed day and be grateful.